Just like in the movies.
Welcome to SuperWonder Legacy. I am Jared. I'm here with Brit. What's up, Brit?
Hello, hello.
And Jid has returned. Welcome back, brother.
Hi everyone, I'm so glad to be
Yay.
back. Triple
This
times
is
of
your-
fun this time around. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is your third time on the show. So
No, second time on the show, but yeah.
actually, it was third because you did one for. Actually, you know what? That may have been two. Okay, whatever. The point is, you're back on the show. But so, oh boy, is this going to be a fun one. We are going to be discussing Times of Tom King against Wonder Woman. Yes, we are going to have a military tribunal against what is quite possibly a war crime in the field of comic book media. So, Tom King's BS run on Wonder Woman. Now, here's what I need to bring up real quick, and then I'll get your all's input on this. Brit, you can tell people this. I originally was like, let's see what he can do here, because when he gets it right, he gets it right. When he tries, he gets it right. The problem is, and this is a personal fault with me, sometimes I see the good in people too much. And oh God, this essentially what this turned into, it's like, you know how when they tell you, it's like this run turned into a car wreck that you can't look away from.
It was a car wreck that we didn't even know would happen. It was
we know what happened, Britt. We know what happened.
It was, as you said, you was trying to be optimistic, because if the thing is, well, the first red flag was, saying that he didn't want to write the character, but then it felt like, okay, with seeing the artwork, I think the artwork kind of like made us feel like, okay, let's give this a try. And the original intent of the story, especially with, Wonder Woman versus the government or America and dealing with the Amazons. So yeah, we want that type of story, especially in modern day. But yeah, the execution, and it's Tom King. I mean, he is just an overall red flag of, his own.
Yeah, it's like when I saw the DCU and then I saw Tom King's name attached to it, I'm like, oh no. So, Jid, what were your thoughts going into this dumpster fire?
Well, I wasn't much of a comic reader, let's say, 2 years ago when this announced that Tom King's writing Wonder Woman. But I heard a lot of Wonder Woman fans, they were really, really outraged from the start. They knew about the Human Target book, and they were not happy with Tom King writing Wonder Woman. They wanted someone else, and they were really, really vouching for it back then. And back then, I really didn't understand it, because at that time, I didn't understand how, controversial Tom King can be with his writing. So, I remember like all the Wonder Woman fans, they were freaking out. They were saying like, oh my goodness, like we are doomed because, he writes the characters this way and it's not looking good for us right now. And, this movement against him, or this push against him, it's not just recent. Like for the longest time ever, Wonder Woman fans have not been wanting someone else to write her, basically. So that's what I can tell you guys.
That is a very the first time I saw the Wonder Woman fan base having a violent reaction to him was when he went on Comic Pop. This was the first interview he did after being on Comic Pop after being announced. Kirby says the horribly photoshopped cartoon tears on the dude's face is absolute cinema. Yes, he doesn't deserve a good Photoshop. So King goes on Comic Pop and is talking about the run. Then he legit says, Wonder Woman's like Wolverine. And that silence right there, you could hear a pin drop. I was like, did he just say what I think he just said?
Yeah,
and that should have been my first indicator, Britt. What's up, Sean Franklin? What do you think, Britt?
I think, thinking of Diana as this immortal, with, I guess she's very cold-hearted or something like that. And his other flag, I would say the fact that he went on with DCEU, but in 1984, that was his main like inspiration too. And like I said, the red flags, it was, Heroes in Crisis. It was the Batman
Quick.
plagiarism.
Real quick, I love Mask of Shy. What did I miss? Oh, Tom King. Go on, Brit.
It was Human Target. It's little things like that it accumulates to, okay, you have to be cautiously, optimistic with this type of writer. And you would think that, what people were also going by were trying to give him a chance was Supergirl. But then the more you kind of read Supergirl, it's like, no, this isn't a good story for her either.
A drunk pirate.
Yeah. And yeah, so honestly, Tom King does not have the credit to write female characters. And then on top of that was how he wrote Selena. I mean, with having her actually say meow,
it gets worse. Jid, how much of Tom King's Batman have you read?
I think I read like 25 issues or something, somewhere in the middle.
Did you read the issue where Booster Gold wants to give Bruce a wedding present?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So for those that don't know, Tom King, in his infinite wisdom, by the way, I love Kirby real quick. Why is it that his last name is King when he is a peasant in a land of literacy? Yes, that's good. I like that pun. But so this was the moment when I was reading so this issue literally starts with Green Lantern blowing his own brains out because he's like, they say we can't use these rings to hurt ourselves. But you know what? I think if I have enough willpower, I could try. Boosh. Anyway, so then when we see Selena, she is in Arkham Asylum, and because what Brewster wants to do is go back in time, save the Waynes, so that Bruce can have a life with his parents. At first, it's like a thing. Yes, exactly, Kirby. That's what he did. That's how the issue starts. That's literally the first panels. Anyway, so then the way it works is. So we find out. So Selena's in Arkham, and Bruce and Booster brings Selena to Bruce to say maybe she can snap him out of it. Selena can only say meow and kills the Waynes, and then Bruce kills Selena.
Wait, he kills Selena?
Yeah, he shoots her.
What
happens is that I think the way it works is that Selena cuts the Waynes' throats. And then Bruce grabs a gun and shoots Selena. And I'm like, this is the man that said that Catwoman he wrote a lot of his wife into Catwoman. So I'm like, why is it that all the characters that you write your wife into get hurt a lot?
And the Maxi series, that really made Batcat so toxic. I mean, that...
Yeah.
With,
the first time he gave a member of the Trinity a kid and it sucked.
Well, he tried to, bring in Helena, and that, I mean, her relationship with Selena seemed very strained, and she wanted to just be like Bruce's, like daddy's little girl, and I mean, how he wrote Selena as like this bad mother, and then you're writing Diana exactly like that, with whatever you're trying to connect everything to this 20-year future. But what, Trinity is saying about Diana having like this toxic parental state or whatever, she's in a sense, a worse version of Hippolyta, because we have Hippolyta as like kind of like this helicopter mom, but she's protective of Diana in the best way, in a sense. Diana is the total opposite. And I just don't see Trinity as Diana's daughter.
Trust me, we'll get there. So here's the first thing. So King has said that when they asked him to do Wonder Woman, he said no. So he didn't want to write Wonder Woman. Then he was at George Perez's funeral, and then he gets it in his head that Perez was challenging him to surpass him, and I'm like, dude, if that's true, that's a big insult on Perez.
It's for him to do whatever mental gymnastics and to put himself on that type of pedestal. You know, you have to have the biggest ego, you know, to think that. And it is very disrespectful because Perez, you haven't talked or you didn't, you know, talk to Perez or you know, before his passing. You didn't, obviously he didn't read his work for Diana to understand why his run is so beloved and why it's practically the golden standard. And I think that a lot of times what Tom King sees is other writers, they have this stamp on certain characters. And to make himself known, he wants to, you know, challenge that previous writer in, like I said, the most disrespectful manner and think he can do better. But obviously, you know, with all of his work being 80% bad, you know, it should give him some type of reality check. But at the same time, when you're winning Eisners, like, you know,
or
Oscars,
actually being nominated for Eisners, because I don't
even
think he
that,
wins them that much.
no, he doesn't win them. You're right. But even being nominated, you know, that's basically how the Oscars is, you know, these popularity um contest awards, and it's not genuine. It's not actually the work that all of these other writers are giving. A lot of DC's current books aren't very of that caliber to receive um, Eisner, you know, nominations. But at the same time, I would say that a lot of independent writers or in comics deserve much better recognition than Tom King's work.
Yeah. So, Jed, let me ask you, gun to head, Desert Island, are you bringing Perez or King the run?
The Perez run, obviously.
There you go.
What?
I figured you were about to say the Perez run. But real quick, Sandman Mystery says Tom King is one of the biggest reasons I stopped buying modern comics from the big two. I will get a few JSA by Lemire and some Dynamite stuff. Otherwise, not. Yeah, and the biggest ego. Yeah, it's like, I get what you're, again, to your point, Brit, I think that what he's trying to do is say, okay, so whenever anyone thinks of Wonder Woman, they think of the Perez run. So if I say I'm trying to like surpass that, maybe those people will come to me and I'm like, bro, that's not working.
No one is going to think of Wonder Woman and think Tom King's run, especially the fact
some
that,
shields will.
I mean, yeah, but they aren't the representation of Wonder Woman. You know, the fandom, as we are navigating through the hashtag and seeing the comments and everything like that, you can really tell the division of people who genuinely love Diana as a character and, you know, stick with her from, you know, the good, the bad, and the ugly, or the so-called fans who are just fans of the writer. You can definitely tell the difference, and that is why, in a sense, the Wonder Woman fans will have the louder voice.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny about this. It's like, again, I was telling Brit and Jed before we went live. Here's how you can know. Here's how you can tell if the people are just a Tom King fan or if they're a Wonder Woman fan. I'll ask people, how much Wonder Woman have you read? And then they'll say one of two things. They'll say not that much, or they'll say, I haven't read since Rebirth. And I'm like, that's a long time to claim that King is like faithful to the characters. He ain't. I'm just going to tell you that right there. What do you think, Jed?
That, and also they'll say, oh, I read Gods and Mortals, you know, the first 6 issues of George Perez's arc, right? Or they'll say, oh, I read Hecatea. They'll name the most like like memorable or the most like what's it called? Most
Basic.
basic books, not basic. I would say like most like, you know, what you can find on Google. Like if you ask Google right now, name me
True.
5 Wonder Woman books, they'll tell you Hikatea, Gods and Mortals, stuff like that. You know, like Historia as some of the people should read, but they'll name me those books. But if you ask them for like deeper cuts, they can't tell you that. Like, you know, and I've noticed that a lot with how people speak about Wonder Woman on not just on Twitter but just in general. They have a hard time, you know, naming other authors instead of George Perez or Greg Rucka.
So
Yeah,
true.
exactly, because it's like the most surface level thing. Or if it's like if you ask me, I could give you absolute Wonder Woman. And by the way, it is so gratifying to see absolute Wonder Woman dramatically outselling this crapshoot, because then it's like, oh, so you mean, right? So Massive Shy says, I read mainly George Perez and Azzarello. How bad is that? Azzarello's not. See, the thing about Azzarello is here's what I noticed, because I have the omnibus for Azzarello, and what I noticed is that it reads well if you take it as an Elseworlds take on Diana. If you take it in continuity, it's like, but if you take it as like a non-continuity alternate reality Diana, it's not bad. It's just my thoughts on that character. I like New 52 Wonder Woman. Read Superman Wonder Woman by Charles Sewell. You will definitely have fun with that one. So this is the first thing. He said he wanted to surpass. And then and I added the statement, so Tom King lied then, because Tom King, when he was coming on, he essentially critiqued past Wonder Woman runs. Jid, you'll love this. When he said, okay, the problem with past Wonder Woman runs is they focus too much on the love interest or the villains and not on Diana.
I mean, that's definitely pot calling kettle black, like.
Which is why I said lied. And as soon as I saw that, I was legit like, so I have an accurate representation of what I was like when I read that and after reading the run. So this was essentially me. Hang on.
What is this?
Yeah, that was me. So it's because here's the thing. Why would you say that and then immediately do the exact same thing?
Well,
what are you doing?
From what we know is that he wants to have these traditional relationships, you know, and have romance in his books, no matter how awful it is. So with Steve, like basically comparing him with Kite Man and stuff like that, he knows that Wonder Woman fans or fans in general just do not care for Steve. No matter if, even if it was, you know, he gained a little bit of respect within the movie. That was, I give credit mostly to Chris Pine, and you really can tell that that was Chris Pine. It wasn't so much as Steve Trevor's character.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that is what influenced Tom King. And then he also, you know, said in an interview that he likes Steve because he is in the military, and he felt like, you know, they are one and the same. And so within doing that, that is basically a self-insertion. So
Dweeb.
I had to.
so he wanted to give, you know, Steve this platform, you know, to make him, you know, seem more important than he is. And the fact that you say that he is the heart of Wonder Woman's story, and he's the reason why Diana leaves the island or becomes
Here.
Wonder Woman, it's very, I, I mean, it definitely shows how he didn't read Perez, and it
Yeah.
shows that, you know, he's very much stuck in pre-crisis. Um, and that we are far past that, the more problematic origin of Diana.
Well, not only
And
that, he says that, but then has lines like this, where it's like, hey, remember when we were chasing terrorists? And it was like alien terrorists, and we were chasing them, and then we just stopped to make out, and then we took them down eventually. And I'm like, is this supposed to make me like this guy?
not only that, but are you supposed to like Diana?
Oh, yeah,
Because
exactly. Why would Diane? Hey, Brit, what was that special phrase in the new 52? It has something to do with the world. I don't know. It has something to do with like ordinally compared to
right,
like the relationship. What was that?
the world comes first, and if
Yeah.
we forget that, then we're basically over in a sense. But yeah, that it the criticism that Superman and Wonder Woman's relationship, gets is very much a projection of the traditional relationships. Um, and he not only did that here within Diana's mental breakdown of the terrorist thing, but he also did it in the absolute power tie-in in
Oh
13.
God.
Like for you to just say that this is a kissing book and for Diana to not care for anyone's well-being, I mean, they're trapped. They're in prison. How are you and having Damien there and he's being more mature than Diana, it really um you know shippers, they're gonna love it because that's all they care about is the ship.
Mhm.
But when it comes to the expense of the character, that is something that you have to criticize. If that was Clark and Diana, we would drag it. We would definitely do that. But yeah, that issue was very out of character, and it was just an out of nowhere um force. It wasn't even a setup. It was a force to end up, you know, killing Steve off and trying to have the audience care for him, when you kill him off and Diana to all of a sudden be in love with him and everything like that. Again, that was just something that he tried to force for us to like him, for us to accept his self-insertion, and then for us to accept Trinity, which again, even that, Trinity's character, she is not an organic product or development for Diana. She is the development for Superman and Batman's kids.
Yeah,
And
we'll
that
talk about talk about that in the next slide. But by the way, Sandman has a fantastic, like, I'm sure this is a typo, but you know what? I'm going to use this. He goes, at least the Loud Lane comics were funny though. Oh God, she did have do some stuff. Superman. I'm assuming you mean Lois, but you know what? Loud Lane actually looks really well. So Jip, so in Tom King's, so here's the thing. Tom King has said that like the purpose of this run, one of it, is to make people like Steve. So first off, he's using his Wonder Woman thing to make us like a character, not Wonder Woman. But second off, did you know that it's actually had the effect of making people hate Steve Trevor even more?
Oh yeah, like you even see with Wonder Woman fans, and they're saying that, oh, these big Wonder Trev fans, and the movie made the Wonder Trev fans. And then when you actually read their comments now, when you're reading their tweets, they're saying like, ew, this is disgusting. Like, I don't even like Steve Trevor anymore. Like this run or the way that King writes Steve Trevor is making me like him way less now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's doing this opposite effect of what he wanted to create with Steve Trevor, and it's like it's not working for you, dude. Like nobody likes this character anymore, and nobody is liking this like status quo ship that you want to integrate so bad with Diana and Steve.
Which
Right.
I still say the best moment is when he just shot in the chest. He just sits down. He has that stupid smile on his face. He sits down. Yes, Alvin, you want to see me? Boosh. And then yeah, because I'm like, how much you want to bet? I bet. I wonder if it's going to be very telling how this issue, how the issue 19 ends. Because if imagine if he leaves the book and Steve Trevor's still dead, which that could very well be what happened. Because here's the thing. The problem with Steve, and when I had Comic Historian on my show, RIP, by the way, this is one of the things he brought up. He said the problem with Steve is that what does he do with Wonder Woman? It's like he can't fight the gods. Oh, he's gonna shoot like Ares with a machine gun. Yeah, that's gonna work. But it's like he is even more, in some ways, he's more useless than Lois is. So I'm like, why are you holding up this BS character who, for like 5 years, has never been dating? By Comic Boom says, to make things worse, Steve died in such a pathetic meta shot by Mr. Magoo. You are not the first person to call that. By that's another thing. He claims he was trying to make the Sovereign Wonder Woman's Joker.
Honestly, I still don't understand that, because in the 18 issues, 19 is the, conclusion of all of this nothing. And first, Steve is supposed to be dead for about 20 years until Trinity does some, time traveling shenanigans or whatever.
Notice
And
we haven't heard anything about when that's coming out.
The artist is showing, little snippets of it. I'm thinking that it will be either later this year or the beginning of next year.
Or they could crank it.
Honestly, if it's a 6-issue miniseries, it's basically going to be like Batcat, and no one is going to read it anyway. So, I think that just the overall thing of Steve's character, and also just the lack of female representation. He brought in Hippolyta, who's deceased, but she's turned into a god, and her only appearance was to accept, Trinity. But we really didn't see, like, Diana made this clay Chucky baby, and she, it wasn't anything magical. We just see her cry over molding Trinity, and we didn't have
Chucky
that
baby. I just love that.
or a Cabbage Patch baby. She does one or the other.
Oh my gosh.
But
well,
we didn't see...
she is even more Chucky because she is a demon spawn.
Yeah. We didn't see any type of genuine, like, mother-daughter moment at all, especially with the fact that if you're going to use the clay origin, Hippolyta is, she should have had a way more important role in that process, or showing her a blessing, Trinity or something like that. And the way that he presented that he cared more about Detective Chimp in that issue than really showing, Diana processing all of that and trying to bless Trinity and stuff. And it still just felt so forced, and it felt empty. And the way he wrote Hippolyta and talking about how she's still young as to be a grandmother and stuff like that. Yeah, it was so lame. You're trying to do this sitcom type thing and write them in a very basic way, instead of actually writing them as the characters they are. And this is what we continue to say. He has these characters serving the plot, but not the plot serving the characters.
Exactly. And Tom King has been clear that, like, that, like, what he does is he has these plot ideas on his computer, and he just forces in any character. It's like, okay, I need a story about a drunk pirate girl that on a pirate ship. Oh, I'm supposed to write Supergirl. Okay, how about a let's see, what's another really bad one? Okay, how about this? A misogynistic king of America starts killing one side, so I can make a very politically, like not really irrelevant, but like tone deaf illegal immigration reference. Okay, Wonder Woman. And speaking of forcing the plot, all right, let me be clear on this. I'm not against Wonder Woman having a daughter. It's when the motivation is, oh, Superman has a kid and Batman has a kid, so Wonder Woman should have a kid. Yeah, thanks for telling me that you have literally not a creative bone in your body, that you're literally just doing it to give the sloppy seconds of Batman and Superman to to Wonder Woman. And I'm like, because here's the problem with that. Because what you end up doing is you're not telling me what having a daughter would add to Diana as a character. You're just saying we're just doing it because Batman Superman's a kid. Or in Tom King's case, even goes beyond that. It's because originally he wanted to have a kid he wanted to have a kid for he wanted John and Damian to babysit Scott Free's kid, but apparently that couldn't work. And then so he's like, okay, Trinity. Also, the name Trinity, he got it from a comic podcast. I'm sorry, the name Trinity is one of the worst names you can give a character, because when people think of Trinity, they think of Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. They don't think of this woman. And by the way, before I hand this over to my panel, I love the memes that people come out with. Like, people take Cabbage Patch Kids and throw them in the garbage can and say, hey, that's what Wonder Woman should do. I gotta, the amount of memes about this has been hilarious. But Brit, and actually, I'll start with Jed this time. Your thoughts on Trinity?
Okay, when Trinity first was the thing, you know, on TikTok and even on Twitter, people were saying, "Oh, it's gonna be a child between Batman and Wonder Woman." Like, that's where people's headspace went with the name Trinity, because again, DC Trinity, who was in that, it's always Cal, Diana, and Bruce. So what they did was, you know, people thought it would be a love child between Bruce and Diana, and some, well, not all Batman fans, some of y'all are really cool, but you know, the ones I'm talking about, the ones who want every, you know, Batman to have, you know, children with every single female character in the DC universe. Those, you know, I can't believe how that just became so big on TikTok and Twitter, first of all. So again, and my thing with Diana having a daughter and stuff too, like, I'm not opposed to it, like, but I just think it needs to be very, very creative. It needs to be very, very, like, meaningful to Diana. Like, it should be hard for her to have a daughter because of, you know, it kind of, you know, gives women respect, especially those who have endometriosis. And that's something I really, really advocate for, that, you know, maybe Wonder Woman can be a face for that. She can be, you know, saying how, you know, motherhood does not define her, because, or, you know, the fact she can't have kids doesn't define her. Like, there's so many avenues to go with Wonder Woman, and to just lazily give her a child just because, you know, her friends Superman and Batman have children now, is just so whack to me.
By the way, you know what's hilarious? I ran an experiment, and I asked my chat, because I have some Super Sons fans in my chat. I asked them, are you reading the backups just to read the Super Sons, or are you reading it because of Trinity? 100% of them said Super Sons. So no one even gives a crap about this character.
Exactly, which is, it's honestly another slap in the face and disrespectful to Wonder Woman. And I totally agree with Jid. It's like, with what the Amazons dealt with, and, you know, first, Emily, you present this character, or Amelia, you know, Emily, Amelia, whatever her name is, and you have this red herring, now that you want to say that, of her being pregnant, and you present her as, obviously she's angry, she's attacking men. So, you know, as a writer, storyteller, our you know, as we are, we would jump to the conclusion that, okay, so she was probably assaulted and she's trying to take revenge. You know, that is a storyline that is very, or could be very profound for Wonder Woman, and for her to be, you know, protect her Amazonian sister, and, you know, deal with that kind of issue. Along with the fact that, you know, the world is turning against her, or the US government is turning against her and having her as a fugitive and stuff. And now that we know, in Birds of Prey, we have the Amazons being trafficked as well. So all of that accumulates into basically what the Amazons dealt with centuries ago. They're dealing with it in modern day. And so you're basically saying the same, you know, story over in modern day, but Diana, she's gonna go through it in a different way. And you see that perspective of her in that position of Hippolyta. And if you want to add, you know, truly set up in a way of Trinity being not so much as Diana 2.0. We don't want to have like a little scrappy dude like John is for Clark. Just that she does, dealing with like, in a sense, generational curses or generational type things. And Trinity could have been that. But the
By the
fact
way,
that,
real quick, Robert says, what gets me is that Kings has said that he has his daughter help write Trinity. Not a bad idea. And he's right. That's not a bad idea. But was the daughter responsible for the hit the mom bit? If so, what sort of family life does he have? Exactly. Do we need to get a visitation in order?
right. Yeah, so yeah, just with Trinity, she could have been something very profound for Wonder Woman. And
Well,
Diana,
here's the thing. Beyond that, she even said he has Trinity talk about his Wonder Woman's toxic parental like expectations. So Diana's a toxic mom. Wonder Woman should be the best parent.
exactly, even if she is protective, like I said, you're pretty much a parallel of Hippolyta and with Hippolyta, and how she um, shielded Diana, how she raised Diana, and having these expectations if she, Diana will be different. And again, in the modern world, how does Diana now protect her child?
Not only
But
that,
again,
So the image I included in here was our first appearance of Trinity. Do you want to hear what she said? This is our first impression of this character. So John and Damian, by Superman and Batman at this point, are hovering and they're talking. And then so Trinity shows up and goes, what? You're just standing there staring into space with all we've got to do? And then she says, seriously, why is it so hard to get you boys to do anything right? And then she goes, I'm late because I was fighting 12 deities, and that takes a little time. So please forgive me. I regret it so. And then her intro when we first meet her is she says that I am Elizabeth Marston Prince, champion of the Amazons, leader of the Justice League. And I go, if anyone should be leader of the Justice League, it'd be any of the other two dudes that are with you, because it's Superman and Batman. I get that like Wonder Woman could take as the leader of the Justice League, but you're the least experienced hero of these ones. By Comic Boom says Trinity's first appearance portrayed her as a biatch. Yes. So Wonder Woman is preachy and unrelatable, and Trinity is unlikable. Also 16 to 20 years younger than the Super Sons. What a mess. Yeah, it's because here's the thing. Again, this was my first like, okay, what's going on here? And then I looked up by Robert says that reminds me when Williamson had Joe Mullen be the greatest detective ever in Future State. Yeah, so Brit. So they invented a new Green Lantern named Joe Mullen Far Sector. We talked about her on the Black Superhero episode. So when she first showed up in like Future State, she didn't first show up in Future State. When she was featured in Future State, they portrayed her as the greatest detective ever. Their words. And this is the problem with marketing a character like that, because here's the thing. When you try and say, I'm the leader of the Justice League. No, you're not. If anything, Batman and Superman should be the leader of the Justice. Yes, I know. I had to reference Future State just for that thing. But anyway, so that screamed editorial told Williamson this. Yeah, but here's the thing. Williamson could have made it written like a little better. Like he could have said, oh, she's a very good detective. Okay, that's the way you could do it. You don't say she's the best detective ever, or in this case, they're basically saying, oh, I'm the best character. This is essentially, actually, I have a perfect analogy for this. All right, this is like when Tom Taylor was talking about John Kent and talked about how he's a better Superman than Clark is. And this is essentially saying, because yes, Diana is, to a degree, Diana is the leader of the Justice League, but they never really highlight it. This is essentially saying that Trinity is a better Wonder Woman than Diana. Am I wrong on this, guys? Am I misinterpreting this a little bit?
Right. What's so funny is how John and Trinity are, well, John, he was presented as like this messiah too. The way Tom Taylor had him, Diana, as a mouthpiece, saying that he is like the answer or the greatest, even of basically the entirety of um the heroes, and being the leader of the newer generation. And with Trinity, with everything of her trying to fighting deities and everything like that, isn't that how fans criticize Clark and Diana's relationship of them having kids as eugenics, and saying we only care for their kids to be this powerful and stuff like that. But yeah, you have Trinity and John the same exact way.
That would
Um,
require them to be intellectually consistent, and we know that's not true.
yeah, so you have John, which he is, from his conception, it was basically him being Clark, 2.0, and as I call him, Scrappy Doo.
God damn.
And he,
Brit, I just love the way you say things.
thank you. Um, and he was to be better, more modern, but we had that. We had, a more modern Clark with New 52. You have him, dating a reporter. You have him basically in the same uniform as New 52 was, and now he's um, going to be in a love triangle with another superhero and stuff like that. So yeah, it's the same exact story beat as Clark. John does not have his own identity, and he looks just like a younger Clark. With Trinity, she does. She doesn't look like Diana, but at the same time, she just doesn't vibe so much with the Wonder Girls either. She looks like an OC. Um, her personality just doesn't vibe with Diana. If Diana is to be, if you want her to be a toxic parent, I mean, that's just out of character. But if you want Diana to truly be this um, natural mother, then the way he's characterizing Trinity, even at a forced, distant future, yeah, that's just not how she should be. I think that, like all his other characters, even the son that he tried to give Scott in Barda, Jack, which is funny that he gave the cancer patient in issue 4, he gave him the same name. So he has, this liking to the name Jack. But Jack, being Scott and Barda's son, he is not in canon, in that now they have a daughter named Olivia in
Yeah,
the
they literally
rebound.
swapped it. They swapped. Well, here's the thing about that. And even King was when King was on Robert's podcast, he said that like it's up in the air if that book itself, if Mr. Miracle is like a canon. By the way, Robert by the way, brings up, I say this: Trinity needs more scenes being written to expand her character, because all we've gotten so far is not great, and all we have to dwell on. I'm getting strong early Damien vibes. Now, here's the thing: I'll ask you both, and then we'll move on. All right, I'll start with Jid this time. Is it too late for Trinity? Can they salvage this character? Is the series going to be enough to salvage this character, or do you think it's not worth it at this point?
Honestly, okay, I know I've been on the fence of giving Diana a child, but if they have a good writer, if they can, if they can somehow bring a different writer and give Trinity a different, just more, what's the word I'm looking for, personality, because the excerpt that you just read me, that was the most corniest dialogue I've ever heard. I get what they're trying to do with her dialogue. They're trying to make her sound like she's Elle Woods, like she's very sassy, she's very uppity, which is fine. Like, give that personality to her, but make it authentic. Make it sound natural is what I'm saying. And
Tom King can't make things
he
sound
can't,
natural. We all
but
know that.
I really don't like to salvage things. I don't like to not salvage things. Sorry, I don't like to trash things. I like to what we're given with. Let's work with it, because I come from theater, right? So my thing is let's add yes and that's always been my thing. So yes and we're introduced to Trinity. Yes and let's work with this and add that to make her better. So that's my mindset when it comes to Trinity.
Counterpoint: the series is going to be written by King.
Well.
That's my counterpoint. That's why I'm because as far as because if King writes her like he's written her so far, it's gonna be more of this. And I feel like she's teetering over the edge right now, and the way King writes her, it's gonna be like how like in Looney Tunes when Wile E. Coyote runs off a cliff and he just hovers there, and then King writes more, and then blows up. So what do you think, Brit? Unsalvageable or salvageable?
Okay, for me, I would have to just do a total overhaul. So she is salvageable in the sense that you can change her personality and give her a different background. With Amelia, I'm gonna say that because I don't really, but I really think that would have been a better background, a backstory for Trinity.
Well, here's the other thing, though. Here's what they can do. Retcon out the future. Just say that the future Trinity doesn't exist. And then, by the way, Robert brings up a good point. I still say if DC will let King do the mini, if it fails, they'll give it to another writer. And if that fails, then they'll just ignore her, pretend she never existed. They won't go out of their way to retcon her away, but they'll never reference the baby at all, and it'll never come up. Or they'll have someone take the baby and never come back. But the other thing is what they could do, like I said, make it so the adult Trinity that everyone hates doesn't exist anymore. Because as far as we know, all we have is the baby Trinity. By the way, Comic Boom says, my vote, eliminate one more Clay. Oh my gosh. Brit, you know what that's a reference to?
Yes.
Jid, do you know what that's a reference to,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
that Comic Boom, that is quite possibly one of the best puns I have ever read. Well done. Have Neon restore Steve's life at the cost of her daughter. He never met her anyway. Okay, that actually would be an interesting story. Get rid of Trinity. Get rid of John. Keep Steve dead. Well, keep Steve dead. I think that's most likely to happen, because I think DC has started to get on that Steve is worthless, which is hilarious because when King was on the podcast, was on Robert's podcast, he talked about the three relationships. He talked about Superman and Lois. Gross. He talked about Batcat, and then he talked about Steve and Diana. And he said Clark and Lois are at the pinnacle of their relationship. And I'm like, okay. He said Batman and Catwoman are in the beginning of the relationship. And then he said Wonder Woman and Steve are in the middle of their relationship. And I'm like, if they're in the middle of the relationship, why weren't they dating for 5 years? And if they're in the middle of the relationship, why did you kill him? Again, I hope one day, if I ever am walking a con, if I see that King is ever at a con that I'm going to bring an issue to just so I can have an excuse to go up to him. Then I'm going to ask him these questions. I'm like, I just have a couple of questions. And then I pull up a big ass piece of paper, like a giant receipt paper, and go, okay, number one, why? Number two, also why? But anyway, so now we're going to go through the entire run so far, volume by volume. I was going to do issue by issue, but that would take way too long. So we're going to do volume 1 first, which is issues 1 to 6. Now let's bring this up. This is Collected and Outlaw. Now I'm going to say this. The first 6 issues, except for the punching mom in the face, is not bad per se. My critique about this. Now, I will say the cancer patient issue is great. Except for the Amazons going, he's a man. He doesn't get to come on. He's a cancer kid. What are you going to do? And the whole grandstanding of, is there something wrong with me? I'm a boy, but I love Wonder Woman. And I'm like, that may have been an issue when you were a kid, King, but that's not an issue now. Anyway, I think the problem with this issue, it comes at the wrong part of the run. Because if he had started the run, if that was the first time we see Wonder Woman, that actually would be pretty cool. But here's the issue here. Wonder Woman just made that kid a target because she's a fugitive right now. The parents could be arrested for aiding and abetting a fugitive. What?
Yeah, a lot of the questions and the more, deep dive of the narrative that, we bring up. Yeah, as I said, Tom King does a lot of pinky toe deeping. He does not want to, he has this idea, and basically as long as he gets from A to B or A to C in a sense, B does not matter. The middle part of getting to it and all of that and making it make sense does not matter. So the questions of, oh, if she, went to this kid's house to, while the sentiment is very good, and that was actually Sampere's idea. It was good. However, it does raise questions that you're in the middle of a war or being a fugitive, and you take this time to give this kid a day. But like you said, Jared, it should have been at least the first issue before things started, to escalate.
Yeah,
With
and
these,
actually, real quick, Robert brings up a good point. So I assume but both of you are familiar with the Marvel comic storyline called Civil War, correct?
Yeah, we heard of Civil War.
Yeah, so Robert brings up a good point because Steve Rogers felt guilty that he couldn't go see a Make-A-Wish kid that wanted to see Captain America because he said it would be a trap. Of course, they know I'm going to go there. So I'm like, that's the thing. It's like that doesn't work narratively where it is. And again, because this by itself, take away the what's going on in the run. This has all-star Superman, you are so much stronger than you think you are vibes, and that's why it works. Because Diana, this is when you can take something from Superman and give it to Diana, because character-wise, in terms of hope, they're the same character. My issue is, so they have this issue where it's like issue 5 or 6, where it shows that like the Sovereign is rallying his forces. And then I see like a bunch of villains that are his henchmen. Bunch of these would never realistically be this person's henchmen. All right. Okay. Oh, by Comic Boom says, I enjoy most Tom King books, but I'm not a fan of Wonder Woman. I'm quite happy listening to this debate and discovering dude, that's part of what Comics League is telling people they're not alone in feeling the way they feel. Yeah, so so I'm gonna so I'm gonna always be the voice for the voiceless, essentially. That's why we started Super Wonder Legacy. But anyway, so here's the thing. So I'm looking at the lineup of villains. Giganta maybe would be a hench person. Maybe. Dr. Psycho, no. Angleman, I don't even know who that is, but I would assume yes. The minute I see Grail, the daughter of Darkseid, as a henchman, no. And I said this in a video I did. Grail would be the main bad guy. Because I've long said, and Brit and Jen, I think I told you guys this. The thing about Grail, she is Wonder Woman's reverse Flash. What I mean by that is Grail is essentially the dark side of Wonder Woman, for lack of a better term. She is the dark reflection of Diana. So I'm like, that's why she should be like the main villain. But she's the henchman. Right? If Darkseid found out that his daughter was a henchman, she would be Omega beamed in the face so fast. So no daughter of Darkseid. And then we have a Trinity special that took place that came out around this time period, where it's showing that like Diana and Trinity went through the same training when they were their age. And here's the thing: it's the Bullets and Bracelets challenge. And here's the stupid thing: so you have Hippolyta and Diana in their time periods talking to their daughters and being very warm and very loving about this, saying you are a star, my daughter, so something like that. The point is they're being affectionate mothers. Then both teenage Diana, teenage Trinity, punch their mothers in the face and then say, here's the dialogue. It's a fine story, mother, but the time for stories is past. It is the hour of bullets and bracelets, and I will not have your weakness interrupt this sacred ceremony. This isn't injustice, Wonder Woman.
Yeah,
I'm like,
that,
what?
and the thing is with that, he said that he wants Diana. I don't get why these writers want Diana to rebel against Hippolyta. That is not their
That's not
relationship. It's never
Diana.
been, yeah, that's never been their relationship. If anything, Diana wanted to, just become her own and not have Hippolyta worried about her in this helicopter mom type way. Um, and to trust her that she can, protect herself and, you know, just do what she needs to do as the champion of the mascara. But to say that Diana is rebelling, and that's the thing, the he, King also said that the reason why he used the clay origin and added Steve to it is
Mhm.
again another rebellion against Hippolyta. And again, you were so
It makes it worse,
disrespecting.
Brit. Steve says, you weren't your daughter's miracle. You were mine. And I'm like,
Right,
how
that too.
tone deaf could you get? But
And
Robert brings up a good point. Again, if this was his daughter's idea, and best guess she's 13-ish when King started this run, why would she suggest this?
right, as Jid, brought up too, being a mother and just the whole thing, that it's something that's very sacred, very um important, or something serious to a woman. And that is what Wonder Woman represents, Hippolyta represents, is especially if King is saying that Perez run is the definitive run, then you know that Hippolyta was the reincarnation, and Diana too, of a mother who lost her life and her unborn child. And, Hippolyta had that feeling of something missing, and she wanted her child. And that is what Diana represents. And that is what, in a sense, that is, women who can't have children, or women who have miscarried, that is the representation of that. And to finally have a child, whether it is the clay origin, in comic book terms or Wonder Woman terms, or in reality of women going through processes, or naturally being able to have that one child that they've always wanted, that is their miracle as a mother, as a woman. And for King to turn that around and make that about a man, and to say that Diana wasn't Hippolyta's miracle, that is, as you said, tone deaf, and that's very disrespectful to mothers, or to women who have had difficulties, with child bearing, or just being mothers, period.
Yep. And Jid, thoughts on the first sex issues of this thing?
I'll have to say the order, like now that I think about it, the order is so messed up. I feel like the one with the child who suffered from cancer, that should have been the first issue to
Yeah.
begin with. And while I love that issue and it did make me emotional, I do feel like it lacked the substance that it needed to have. Like, yes, okay, like I know, well, I guess like if a guy likes girly things, or quote unquote Wonder Woman, right? They get bullied to an extent, and I've experienced this too. Like with me liking like girly music, or like wearing pink in general. I get that, but I feel like it was not expressed the way it could have been. I feel like there could have been more to it, right? Yeah, and I don't know. I think this run in itself, it seemed a very hyper violent in contrast to previous Wonder Woman runs besides the New 52. But even then, the New 52, it came with the territory, with the edginess and stuff like this. But with this rebirth one, or not rebirth, sorry, Dawn of DCU, whatever you want to call it, is very much hyper violent everywhere, like blood everywhere. Like Diana, every single page, she's covered in blood everywhere, and I'm like, who is
Or
this
the
made for?
sovereign is pouring wine on her head.
Yeah, which will be in the next arc there. But it's just like, who is this made for? When we get to that arc, like that makes me so uncomfortable looking at that image right there. And especially with especially with Brit just mentioning
That
how
image. So we're all good there. But all right, let's move on. Volume 2. This is where it goes downhill. Because Volume 1, I was still like, okay, there's some stuff that I don't like about this, but short of the punching her mom in the face, I was still like, okay, King does this. He has some things where I'm like, okay, this is really weird. But then I get to issue 7 through 12. So, all right, in this arc, Wonder Woman is taken and captured after going on a shopping trip with Superman, just so they can justify, here's why Superman never showed up to help Wonder Woman. So, again, I'm like, pfft. But it all comes down to Batman worship. So I'm like, okay, we know you really want to watch. We know that your ego is so fragile that you're upset that your Batman run got cut off because you were outsold by the Hulk, but you're writing Wonder Woman, Genghis. Anyway, so after that, we cut to Wonder Woman. She's all right. I have a slide dedicated to this, the next slide, but King plagiarized in this. So there's a story. It is in the DC did these digital first comic books. The one they did for Wonder Woman was Sensational Wonder Woman. So I pick up the trade of this for Christmas, and I'm flipping through it and I'm reading it. So here I'm going to describe the plot of the Tom King book. So Wonder Woman is under the influence of the lasso of lies, and she's a 1950s housewife of Steve Trevor, and she detects that something's not right, so she breaks free. Here is the plot of the first story, written by Stephanie Phillips. Wonder Woman is a 1950s housewife to a blonde guy. I'm not sure if it's Steve, but she gets snapped out of it because there's a villain that's influencing her mind. It's Dr. Psycho. But then she breaks out and fights the villain. It's literally the exact same plot. And Brit and I will bring this up. He plagiarized in his Batman run as well. But the point is, so you get that. Then, okay, so Wonder Woman breaks the lasso. This is why I have to emphasize this. And then is holding him there. And is like, and then the next issue, she's literally in a prison cell. Well, yeah, but my point is, King presented this like this is all his ideas. And I'm like, you're plagiarizing from your own stuff. Good job, bro. So after, I'm going to gloss over the pouring the wine on Diana's head and quoting scripture, which as a Christian man, that was just offensive. So the next issue starts and she's still in the prison cell, still somehow under the influence of the lasso of lies or like retreating into her mind. And first off, there were 2 rats in her cell. She eats one and then vividly recalls biting into the rat, tasting it. And I'm like, King, why are you having Wonder Woman describing eating rats? What is wrong with you, sir? And then apparently the door opens and then she is just deposited on a beach where she meets Cheetah. Tom King would later pull out of his ass that Wonder Woman was captured so that she could rescue Cheetah. We never saw her discover that Cheetah was under the control of the Sovereign. So he keeps doing stuff off screen to the point of where I don't even think it was part of his story. I think it was just him realizing, oh no, I never, people are calling me out for not setting this up. I need to fix it for my fragile ego. And then this is where we got issue 10 with people trying to say that he was setting up Diana with Cheetah, which he wasn't, because Diana got her ass kicked by Cheetah. I don't know how that works. So they're rescued. And then, okay. And that's arc 2. So what do you guys think of arc 2? I'll start with Brit this time.
Okay, so going back to the mother's thing, Cameron did a comment. Okay, so yeah, media has an issue with showing positive mother-daughter relationships. I don't know if it is because, you know, maybe they are self-inserting and they have this basically want to get out their own feelings of their personal, you know, dealings or whatever. However, you know, there is more positive mother and daughter relationships. And again, Wonder Woman and what she represents for women is supposed to be a positive image and representation. So her relationship with Hippolyta, even with its, you know, ups and downs and flaws, it is supposed to be positive, you know, all around, and showing the challenge in that they basically are, you know, best friends in a sense. That is just how mothers and daughters are. And the fact that the main character, female character that is supposed to be inspiring to young girls, is punching her mother or having these, you know, issues trying to rebel against her mother, not listening, going for the bad boys when her mother, you know, dealt with a bad boy or a god and was assaulted and stuff like that. That is just not the right image for young impressionable girls. And so for these writers to continue that, that is not an excuse to continue that, but that is just something that we as fans have to voice as we continue to do, and not really take heed to it. But yeah, as for this whole second, you know, part of this, I did not really. It had its moments for issue 7, but yeah, it was not satisfying, and especially when you want to say that this is to explore Clark and Diana's friendship. It didn't. You know, it really, what Tom King tried to do was put Clark and Diana's relationship with the Trinity, and that's not fair because you have world's finest, which is Batman and Superman, and Diana is not a part of that. Then you have, well, it's not really a relationship. It's only when they want to distance Clark and Diana, but they are, you know, some writers try to have Diana and Bruce as friends. And Clark is brought up in a sense as in to down him. And then with Clark and Diana's relationship, it's more so just we're a part of the Trinity and Bruce is our best friend. It's the proper Batman. And
Exactly.
that is just not their relationship. If you don't want to directly, you know, explore their relationship, just don't write it. Because yes, it does have that inherent natural um undertone of flirtation, of a hint of romance, but at the same time you can write them as, you know, best friends, and it's something that is platonic in that way. It doesn't have to be um basically trying to avoid it, you know, because you're afraid of other fans. This is Clark and Diana's relationship. If you don't want to write it, just don't do it at all. So with issue 7, it was just pointless, and you had the title even for the Batman who has everything, which is just so it it goes into what we've been saying, how Tom King doesn't have any original ideas for himself, not even to the point of titles, you know. Um, and with issue 8, of the housewife. He basically turned Diana into um a she's in mourning for a guy that she wasn't even in a relationship with, and basically having a kid for him. So that with saying that that was a lie for Diana, or that that's something that she didn't want, you gave it to her anyway. And with her eating a rat, yeah, that's honestly, if that was the first issue I've ever read about Wonder Woman, of her eating a rat, I would just throw the whole run away. Like, that is just something that, as again, what Tom King is trying to, make so profound, or something as shock value. He's just, downing the character and ruining her. And everything else he is doing, which you always have a problem with, Jared, is things being done off panel. So
Yeah. The DCAMU had massive issues with this.
yeah. So yeah, he has a problem with execution. It's the ideas are there, but it's all over the place. And also just things are being done off panel. And yeah, it just continues on from there.
Exactly. Jid, your thoughts on Volume 2?
Well, first of all, so it's not the first time that Wonder Woman has ate something strange. In the post-crisis era, after George Perez left, she did eat a lizard. So just putting that out there for everybody, if this, it's a bit, so I don't know why they do that, but my thing is when writers try to, personify Diana and they try to give her this like human qualities, they overcompensate for it. They don't make it seem natural at all, especially with the relationship with Steve. Like, especially the panel that you just have there, like it's very where Steve is just sexualizing Diana, like sexualizing the heck out of Diana, and that's all the dialogue is. Like, we don't get to see Steve comfort Diana, or give like a different perspective to Diana, or challenge her worldviews, anything like that. It's not in there. When you want to humanize a character like who has Wonder Woman, who is like a quote unquote god level strength, which I disagree with myself, but that's just the status quo that's in for her right now. If you want to humanize her, you humanize her by having humans interact with her in a way that
The cancer kid.
Exactly. So there's this emphasis on like I said, like humanizing her, but it's degrading her at the same time, especially when you have Steve talking so sexually towards her like that. I understand, like, you want that little bit of like not raunchiness, but a bit of sexiness in your comics. I understand, go for it, but there has to be a bit of intimacy with it too. Like, if Greg Rucka's Rebirth run, at the very end of his run, I know we're not Wonder Trev fans in here, but the way he did Wonder Trev in that issue, it was nice. It was detailed. It was organic in that way. Here it's just I don't know how to describe it. It's just very inappropriate and very, 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 very crass. And I feel like it's not organic. It's not, it doesn't humanize Diana in any kind of way. So that's my take on that.
Yeah. Oh, and speaking of hyper violent, so this was in the previous volume, but so Diana is fighting the U.S. Army, and she kills soldiers in tanks, by the way, straight up kills them. But then she goes, "I will over and over drop a 55-ton Abrams tank on your pathetic little heads." And I'm like, that's not Diana. That is literally... Diana has never in combat talked like that. By Romeo Malone says, "You guys should work at DC and write comics because you guys know DC Comics and would do a better job." Why, thank you. I do appreciate that.
Thank you.
If I could write this and I could do whatever I want. Again, I've said, so I would legit make fun of this. I have Diana make fun of this issue where someone says, "Oh, did you eat a rat?" And then she goes, "Why would I do that?" Or it's like where the Sovereign is actually a senile old man that thinks he's Wonder Woman's nemesis. It would essentially be like in that episode of Harley Quinn where Damian is trying to get Harley to be her nemesis. It's that, except less cool. Because I would have someone go, "Okay, it's time for your bath, Sovereign." Anyway, so as you guys know, Tom King takes credit for other people's work. So he plagiarizes. And okay, so the reason why I know, Brit, we have to look at panels for Immortal Beloved. All right.
Jesus.
So here's why I have to do this. So Brit, real quick, recount the plot of Immortal Beloved.
Okay, so basically, it's the man is having doubts uh of his relationship with whether it's Bruce with being engaged to Selena or Clark being married to Lois, and Diana plays the temptress of basically it's her challenging, used as a plot device to challenge his faithfulness. And so they are thrust into, whether it's Valhalla or wherever Tom King had Bruce and Diana, for years, decades, 1,000 years, or I think for Bruce it was 30 years. And it's, can Diana seduce them, and can they stay loyal to Selena or Lois for that amount of time?
It's
Which
literally the
is,
exact same story. And this is also adding on to the fact. So, Brit, I mean, actually, know what, Jit, I'm going to ask you this. Who who do you think popularized the term dark side is?
Honestly, I have no idea. So
Okay, Grant Morrison in the Justice League is the earliest time I ever read this. Tom King took credit for it.
oh my gosh.
On a comic pop podcast, they were talking about Kite Man and the whole Kite Man hell yeah thing, because he likes to give his characters like catchphrases, like Diana suddenly saying no thank you, and I'm like, she never said that. But so he says, okay, I have two catchphrases that I'm known for. It's like Kite Man hell yeah and Dark Side is, and I literally rewound the podcast 3 times to make sure I didn't mishear that, because I literally flipped it even in my JLA omnibus, and I was like, it's plastered on a wall. That was not you, bro. And I'm like,
yeah,
how much of a narcissist do you have to be when you take credit for other people's work?
right. So with I can't stand, but I mean, both versions of this story is crap.
Oh, it's still bad, but I'm
Yeah,
just saying. So he plagiarized from Superman, and then he plagiarized from Wonder Woman, and then he plagiarized from the Justice League.
yeah. So with Immortal Beloved, the thing with the Superman uh version is that it was basically a play in a civil war between writers and editors of, obviously they were going back and forth with the marriage of Clark and Lois. And you have, an uptake of other fans wanting Clark with Lana or Diana. And at that time, it was really Diana. So Joe Kelly, he um, we see in his Justice League run how he wanted Diana to be with Bruce. And so, yeah, that's pretty much where this story is born out of different ship preferences, basically. So, with this story, though, you have at the beginning of Clark, um, he's in doubt because he has feelings for Diana, and we've seen that, at the beginning of Post Crisis, how he was going back and forth with his feelings for her, and even going to therapy. I think that was before this story, for his feelings for Diana. So yeah, it had the build up and the setup for it. The ending was crap because it's, again, using Diana as a plot device. It was also a bait and switch of Clark, knowing that he has feelings for her, and then he um is, you don't want to write in a corner of these characters that are supposed to be inspirational with a cheating scandal. So that's pretty much why the ending, it was forced to be as it was. With Tom King version, that was a last minute change because the artist, Joelle Jones, she didn't want to draw Green Lantern. The story for her was actually Green Lantern taking Bruce to have a bachelor party. And Diana was not supposed to be here at all. So, as a last minute thing, I guess Tom King thought that no one would reference or even know of this story. So that is how we ended up with this Diana, and
Right. Mhm.
that really speaks to the dynamic that, or the lack thereof, that Diana and Bruce does not have. Is that if you have to plagiarize a story and she was not in the plans in the first place, you should have known that that was, a terrible idea. And he got the backlash for it.
And by the way, yeah, because this is the funny part about this is like, so Jit, I love this. The issue ends with them leaning in. Literally, the next issue opens up. They're like, this will never happen. And I'm like, God damn. But see, here's the funny thing about that, Brit. So if he keeps plagiarizing from other people's stories, doesn't that indicate something about his creativity level? It's not there.
Right.
Well,
I mean,
even when you take it into account, like Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, people say it's just a ripoff of True Grit.
yeah, and now the lanterns have, I think um it was another show that Lanterns is now taking supposed inspiration from.
Oh, God, of course. The man has no original bone in his body.
I mean, if you with seeing the first look of John and Hal, they definitely look like they are from just a regular uh, TV show that you would see on Fox or CBS or whatever. um, it, one of those, I forgot what that show is, but yeah, one of those buddy cop type shows, but it's not giving lanterns at
And
all.
Robert, it's what the showrunners have said. And then Lightning said, if we're talking crap about James Gunn, I'd love to join in. The closed panel, dude, but we're talking crap about Tom King. So close. But yeah. So yeah, the man's a plagiarist. So this is what made me finally drop the book, issues 13 to 18. All right. So you get absolute power. So the tie-ins. I thought Diana was written a little better here. And but by the way, real quick, I just want to talk about this. The idea of having the Sovereign narrate the entire story is utter BS, because part of the fun is you want to see what's Diana thinking about during this story. But no, we have never heard Diana's thoughts in this entire run. Are you stupid? The answer is yes. But so then we get to absolute power. And so they're rescuing metahumans with Steve. First off, she does this really stupid thing. So Steve tries to flirt and calls her Woman of Wonder, but then but then she calls Steve Man of Army and Jid. Here's the stupid part. Here's the problem with Steve. They literally keep changing what branch of the military he's in. Because in Rebirth, he was a Navy SEAL. In this, he's in the Marines. Now, all of a sudden, he's in the Army. I'm like, you have a very eventful career, man.
But also, the Man of Army, first of all, yeah, it is supposed to be a playoff on Woman of Wonder, but you do know, Man of Steel. So again, nothing original, and it doesn't really sound right saying Man of Army, especially with the fact that you are glorifying the military and the army once again, and
Yeah.
also taking from Man of Steel, which is Superman.
You
So
really
yeah, it's
want Superman with Wonder Woman. This is about the only time I will ever agree with Tom King. But even with this, so they make out constantly, and Damian has the appropriate response with gross. And then, so Diana is shot because, remember, absolute power, the superheroes are stripped of their powers. She's shot. And then Diana falls back. Steve catches her, and dramatically they kiss while the other superheroes are getting shot at. And I'm like, you obviously, you were probably phoning this in because this is stupid. Then the next panel, well, actually first, so then this is where the issue I have of Diana being a secondary character really shows up. So Steve is killed, as we said before. And then what they do here is, so Diana spends what feels like 18 issues building a statue to Steve Trevor. This is what the first trending day was really rallied around. And then as she's doing that, the Wonder Girls, Detective Chimp, and Clark Kent are actually fighting the Sovereign. So her Joker, Diana doesn't face him. Diana, literally, she faces him when she's captive, and then in the last 2 issues of the run, you cannot do that if you expect her to be an art. Just like when the solicits label her as his arch nemesis, I'm like, yeah, no, it wouldn't surprise me if King himself is writing these solicits, which I think, Brit, correct me if I'm wrong, but he did say he wrote a couple of them even in the Batman days. But
Right.
with this, then we get this really weird thing. And this was the DC All-In issue. The issue where she makes Trinity out of clay. This was the first part. What do you mean to be one's Joker? And how is that the difference in Lex Luthor? Yeah, I know, Robert, but that's just the phrasing that King used. So Wonder Woman doesn't really delve into patriotism that much in terms of her runs. He would know this if he read Wonder Woman, but he clearly didn't. He was just lying, which would be about the 18th thing in this run that he has lied about. So Diana breaks into Steve Trevor's home, steals the American flag that they fold up and give you if you remember the military and you die, takes into a cave, brings it to the ground and cries on it. So, Jid, here's why this doesn't make sense. In addition to the obvious, remember when in issue 18, when she shows up and fights that like general flag guy, he's unimportant. When she fights the guy holding the American flag, and she goes, "Give me the flag. I won't see that flag touch the ground."
Oh yeah.
I'm like,
What did she do exactly? What did she do with the flag?
You literally did that. So does he have cognitive dissonance? But that's the issue. And then it's like Wonder Woman's all of a sudden like super patriotic. And I'm like, Captain America isn't even this patriotic. And I'm like, that's not Wonder Woman. And then it's, I'm just like, and by the way, Wonder Woman has a main villain. He could have created this. Veronica, this run would have, you could have told a similar story with Veronica Cale. Anyway, then the reason why I bring up this panel right here is because then the Sovereign is visited by Clark Kent. And according to like the Jimmy Olsen backup story that would follow, the Sovereign talked to her, told his story. Yeah, the Sovereign, the secret king of America, talked to a journalist. And then Detective Chimp shows up and goes, "Hey, I bet you're wondering why I got your address. Well, it was left in Steve Trevor's car when you dumped his body." I'm like, you left your address? Are you an idiot? The answer is yes. This is supposed to be Wonder Woman's main villain. This is why I'm convinced this is probably all a dream, and it's just the dream of a guy that has Alzheimer's and he's in an old folks home, because this does not make sense. So, Brit, opinions on Volume 3.
Okay, so starting with 13, issue 13. Yeah. First of all, Diana is a trained Amazon. So her falling after, getting shot, especially if she has the makeshift gauntlet things. Yeah, no, she wasn't supposed to fall.
Isn't she known as like the greatest Amazonian warrior?
Right. And even, the whole thing with Diana was about, even if she doesn't have the power or the strength, she can still fight. So again, Tom King doesn't know Diana. As the purpose, he wanted that damsel in distress type thing for Diana with Steve. And again, you're trying to make Steve more important at the expense of Diana, and that's exactly why Wonder Woman fans and why we don't care for them. Issue 14, the whole thing of, again, glorifying Steve in the sense of saying that Diana is a miracle for a man after, with knowing that she is the miracle for the Amazons and for Hippolyta, that is very tone deaf, very disrespectful. Then issue 15 or so, that's honestly a blur. I don't even remember what was happening. I think that was the Detective Chimp one.
Hang on,
But
Well,
having
Jack, hang on. Detective number 15 is issue 15 is the is I think issue 15 is not only the chimp one, but when Diana takes Trinity to meet Hippolyta, and then the first thing Hippolyta asks about is, "Oh, who's the father?" Oh,
yeah,
no. This is worse. This is the one where the Wonder Girl, where like Donna guts Solomon Grundy, uh where like Yara robs a bank, and where Cassie
all
like
right,
takes out
this
an
is
automated like thing, and I'm
yeah,
like, what?
that is the issue where Diana looks like a villain. Um, like she's
She looks like
singing.
Dr. Evil with the cat with Mr. Bigglesworth.
Yeah, she is singing I guess a lullaby, but it seemed like very much a horror song. I don't know, but yeah, that whole thing of her being in isolation now after because of Steve, or actually moving, like she's actually trying to take down the Sovereign after Steve died, when a lot of your sisters have been murdered,
And you
trafficked,
concern
and
over it.
yeah, and imprisoned. Um, if this is supposed to be 52 days, uh, within basically over the course of a year, yeah, that honestly, Diana should be disowned by the Amazons,
A year.
because
Yes, a year.
because it makes you feel like, and as you know, they do the same thing with Clark and Lois, is that um in the drowned event for Aquaman, how Clark, saved Lois, took her all the way to the fortress, but a lot of people, you know, drowned. And that again shows basically what they're trying to do, or what King is trying to do with Steve, is that Diana will only react in that sort of way with Steve, the same way as Clark would do with Lois, because it's like they're trying to make them seem like all they care that's all they care for. So even with Diana, who she's supposed to be for the Amazons, and again with King saying that, Steve is supposed to be the heart of her story, he really forced that within the narrative of Steve, her only reaction, and trying to, well, she still isn't taking down the Sovereign herself. She's basically the brawn of it all, the strength, the power, and that's how he thinks that he's making Diana seem awesome. His words, but it's not. Diana, and the joke, trying to say that the Sovereign is her Joker. No, because even the Joker is more cunning and clever, or you know, written with more charisma, or more, threatening than, I don't know, this falcon type, whatever, vulture looking old man. I just
He does look like the vulture. I can't unsee that anymore.
yeah, so um overall 13 through 18 has been a mess. It really shows how selfish Diana is when it comes to her just thinking of Steve, and a disrespect even more so to the Amazons. And again, with double downing the fact that the Amazons have been, tortured, and also within the absolute, how Themyscira was used as like a retreat for the entirety of, the superhero community, and how they have not rallied around Diana um at all, through this. And also for King to write that Clark was angry, or throwing a temper tantrum because the Washington Monument, was destroyed, and wanted the Justice League to rebuild it, but he didn't have that same type of reaction to the Amazons when he is supposed to be the champion of the oppressed and the Amazons are being oppressed, especially for the government. Yeah, that just that whole thing, this all of this is terribly executed, and Tom King has literally lost his own plot.
So Jid, what do you think of issues 13 and 18? I believe you wanted to talk about the Cassie Sandsmark versus Angleman fight.
Oh yeah, that's coming up soon. But okay, a bit controversial. Take away the dialogue from issue number 14. Take away the dialogue. It hits you some of the images that were in the picture in the comic there. It hit me really hard. It's just the way that that relationship Diana and Steve had. If Tom King understood what Steve meant to Diana and what really took the time to flourish the relationship.
In other words, if he cared
for that issue would have been much more compelling, because the artwork in that is so stunning, and it gets ruined by the dialogue, because you have this really emotional setting where Diana is in a boat with Steve and they're conversing, and the dialogue is so bad. It's like Steve is saying, "Oh, I had a grandmother. Her name was this and this. So make a daughter in her name." It's like, what the heck, if you're taking this tender moment from Diana and Steve and you're making this about like his grandmother, and you want Diana to listen to Steve and obey him like that. But that takes away the emotional compellingness that you were trying to portray in the images. So that irks me the most. And yeah, I had so much anger when I was reading the last issue where Cassie Sandsmark, and she is battling. Cassie Sandsmark, she's kind of, her age is kind of unknown, I guess, but she looks like she's under 18 right now, which I don't know. Which I don't know what Tom King thinks Cassie Sandsmark is right now. From my understanding, she's now in her 20s, but regardless, she is battling Angleman, who is naked.
So according to again wiki, 21.
21. So and her powers are much more like, I don't know, like depowered for some reason. Like she's more stronger. I hate power scaling in general, but I mean, come on, this is a Wonder Girl. This is Diana's like mentee. You know what I'm talking about?
Plus, this is the one that's the daughter of Zeus.
Thank you, daughter of Zeus, mentee of Diana, and she is getting she is getting destroyed by a naked man like Angleman. And Angleman in Wonder Woman comics, if you know Angleman, like Angleman appears in hardly any Wonder Woman comics. Like in Post Crisis, he's basically non-existent up until the Phil Jimenez era. And Angleman, he's always been a creep like this. So when he's been a creep to Donna Troy in the past, when this context, and now seeing him like be naked in his mansion or whatever, and he's just punching the heck out of Cassie Sandsmark, it's so weird, and that really made me uncomfortable reading Wonder Woman. I'm like, what is this mess? We're never getting away from this like violation of women in Wonder Woman stories, and that's like so sad. This is Wonder Woman. Come on, let's do better with her stories and her characters. So that's just my two cents on that.
And by Patrick Rose's granddaughter, same thing, but hey, yeah, what's up? I thought she was the daughter of Zeus, not granddaughter. I thought she was the daughter.
No, she was daughter of Ares at one point. Remember in Post Crisis, and then it got changed to Zeus.
Yeah. Okay. So they did change it. Okay. So I'm correct. All right. There you go. They really need to stop changing stuff. So now we're gonna talk about, because we at Comics League, we like to talk about the positives as well, because this isn't all bad. It's mostly bad, but it's not all bad. So we're going to talk about the positives of this run. And by the way, Patrick, I don't blame your brother. They changed so much of Wonder Woman on a dime. So this is what we're going to do. So here are some pros. All these I agree with, by the way. The storytelling is big. My pros is Diana feels powerful. Like the scene right here where she's in the elevator and she's like, just, or like when she, like in this issue, is fighting all those bad guys in the most recent issue, and she's just walking through gunfire. That's cool. She's like kind and warm to like Jack and all that, so I like that. Sam Pear's art is actually really, really, really good, except for when he drew Donna behind Giganta. She had that really dead look in her eyes, and I'm like, someone should have checked that. But I liked Diana being a good warrior. But yeah, so what do you guys think? I'll start with Jid. What do you think are the positive aspects of this run?
Funny
You really have to
question.
think, don't you?
The art style, I would say the art style is really Daniel Sampier. That's a really, really talented man. Like the art, the coloring, I think it's really, really well done. I'm trying to be nice.
But I love Cameron. There's positive aspects.
There's positive aspects. Yeah, I'm trying to be nice. Like she, I guess one positive aspect is that we do have the Wonder family. Like we do have Cassie and Donna, and
that he was forced to put in.
But I mean, hey, finally we have more Wonder family action going on. Which has been lacking in the Wonder Woman stories. But again, we're being positive. So yeah, it's great they're back in full action. So that's my positive.
That's my one positive
2 cents on that.
All right, Brit.
Okay. So the artwork, that's pretty much it.
Notice how none of us really said the writing.
I would say that the plot itself is so much potential. And that could have been something if Tom King would have understood Wonder Woman, that it could have been something special that he tried to make it to be. But yeah, sometimes Saint-Pierre's art is a little stiff, and I give that to it. It doesn't convey right when the writing is awful, but with the coloring, and like Jid said, if it wasn't for the dialogue, you can look at the artwork all day long. So yeah, that's pretty much the only positive that's going for this book is the artwork.
Yeah, exactly. And so I had to put two slides for the cons because there were so many. Cons number 1. Characters. Yeah, I'm sorry, Jen. I had to include that panel in this one, I believe. All right. So characterization issues with Wonder Woman. Hyper-violent. Lack of emotions, which that could describe pretty much every Tom King book. U.S. government versus Amazons has been done before and done better. That was actually a major point brought up in a comicbook.com article that was talking about why the King run is the weakest of DC's books. So then you have excessive violence and grim tone. The brutal depiction of the Amazons' persecution. I'm like, legally this would never work. But Engelman's attack on Cassie Sandsmark, the pacing and story structure sucks. Non-linear storytelling and the just incessant narration by the Sovereign is utterly stupid. And Patrick was a good point. If the artwork wasn't good, they would have never made this far. And that's the stupid part about Tom King. He gets the best artists. So that's why I am convinced that's why his books endure as long as they do, because he gets good artists. Because most of the time when people attack his stuff, it's for the writing, it's not the art. Anyway, and Brit, I gotta be honest. Saying the pacing is slow is a dramatic understatement. This is moving slower than an injured snail.
Well, yeah, slower than molasses and all of
Yeah. And then with philosophical narration, overshooting action and plot. So my buddy Max, he was reacting to people saying that, people say there are some shills that will tell you that this run is on the level of the Perez run. And it's kind of funny. My friend Max said, Tom King writes for stupid people that think they are smart.
Ouch.
Is he wrong, though?
I mean, I wouldn't say that. It's something you think in your head, but you just don't say it out loud. That's,
Yeah,
what my grandma
I have
taught me,
very
but...
blunt friends.
Yeah.
Brit. Brit's one of them.
Oh, don't put me on blast like that.
Oh, are you kidding? Oh my god, she's not that blunt. It takes her a while to update her stories, but she's not that blunt.
How you gonna slide that in there like that?
I have to. There's too much of a nasty generalization, if you ask me. Yeah, it's a joke, but still. But all right, cons. Jid, con this up.
Oh.
I love the
Where do I start with the cons? Okay, as you know, I feel like I started this hashtag called where's Etta Candy, because I'm like, where the heck is Etta Candy? Etta Candy has been missing from 19 issues of Wonder Woman so far, 18, and it's like, Etta Candy, she is Wonder Woman's main supporting cast on Man's World. Like,
she was in the Clune run.
She is, it's always been Steve and Etta that she, befriends or whatever in Man's World. Even in Post Crisis, in George Perez's run, Etta Candy was there. She played a lesser role than she did in Pre Crisis, but she still was a thing in Post Crisis. And of course, Gail Simone. I feel like Gail Simone had one of the best versions of Etta Candy in Wonder Woman mythos, and the disrespect that Etta Candy has been through in the Tom King run, especially when that Steve and Etta have been friends, for the longest, and in Post Crisis they were a married couple. Like, Steve and Etta are always like, they have a soul connection. So when Steve died, where the heck is Etta Candy? Why is she not at the funeral? Why is she not comfort, providing her comfort to Diana, being like, hey sister, it'll be okay, like, Steve does not want to see you like this, like, where is that? And that made me so angry. And I, later on, we'll talk about this later on with how I address this to Tom King. That's a story for another time right now, but
we'll talk about that.
We will, but that is my biggest con about the Wonder Woman run right now, is where is the second biggest female character, besides the third biggest, I guess, if it's Diana, Hippolyta, and Etta Candy. Those are the three biggest women in the Wonder Woman mythos. Where is Etta Candy? It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, a lot of this run doesn't make sense. So my biggest con is, why does Diana feel like a side character in her own book? Like, why are we getting statements from... I love how King changed his mind, by the way. So when he was on Comic Pop, they were talking about the Detective Chimp issue, and then he said that was a Sampere suggestion, but previous to that, he said, "Oh, that was me. I always wanted to write Detective Chimp." I think he said that until he got backlash, and then he just dumps all the blame on the artist, who then will say, "Oh, I'm just the artist. I don't decide what characters go in here." And I'm like, so you're saying Tom King is lying? Oh, okay. That kind of works. But yeah, my issue is that she seems like a side character in her own book, and it's like, it's probably because Tom King has written her so powerful that the Sovereign really can't do anything to her. So, Brit, what are your cons with this run?
All right, so I'm gonna narrow this down.
I love how Jed goes, and then Brit goes, okay, I need to narrow this down. It's too broad.
So the first thing is, your entire run is based on your love for male characters and trying to essentially connect Diana to these, to Steve, Superman, and Batman. That was your number one wrong. Number two, the female characters, supporting cast, Etta, Hippolyta, the Amazons, the Wonder Girls. I don't give him credit for that because he was pressured into that with Etta. If we see her in the next issue, if we see her in this Mouseman arc, it's only because the fans brought it up. So he has no type of genuine care for Wonder Woman's mythos or anything like that. Second,
also, didn't he say he didn't want to bring in the gods at all?
Right. Yeah, pretty much everything that he says no to, he's pressured into, at least whether it's mentioning it or actually having the character or whatever in it somehow. But then he's gonna turn around and say, "Oh, this always has been the plan." Second, the execution of a lot of things being put, done in the background. Emily or Amelia, where is she? You brought this plot. She is the catalyst of the sovereign of the Amazons being imprisoned. You are the she's the catalyst for Diana being a fugitive and nothing. Like, where is she? Uh and the last thing I would say, oh,
I love that. Oh,
Diana, she doesn't feel like a character. As you said, she's very much a side character. We don't get her feelings of anything. And just the creation of Trinity, and again, I take offense to the fact that King took this very special thing that Wonder Woman had, you know, as her creation, the clay origin, and her relationship with Hippolyta, and he turned it into just something so tone deaf and degrading or disrespectful.
tone deaf and
Especially
degrading Tom King? No.
right, just trying to make it about Steve and trying to have Diana rebel or have this toxic relationship with Hippolyta. It just I just don't agree with it at all. Of course, we have a lot more cons, but yeah, I had to narrow that down.
Yeah, if I had to do cons, this would be a 3-hour podcast. Patrick Rose says Emily was seen twice. Yeah, and then King basically hinted that she'll show up in the third issue, in the last issue. But I'm like, she is literally the catalyst for this entire thing, and she's only shown up. She's shown up once in the main timeline, and then twice in Diana's flashback. What? It's and then the whole baby thing. He goes, "Oh yeah, that's a red herring." Sure it is, bro. Sure it is. Sure, it's a red herring. I don't think Tom King knows what a red herring is. Anyway, part 2. So here we go. Underuse or misuse of supporting cast and classic villains, like Grail being a henchwoman, or Silver Swan being an obsessive, like unrequited love thing with Diana. That's not Vanessa, and he identifies her as Vanessa. 2, key Wonder Woman allies like Etta are not show up in favor of Batman and Superman. To Jid's point. Classic villains are undermined. Has my point with Grail. And then Etta Candy is disregarded, even though she has been a founding part of Wonder Woman's mythos. Again, there you go. Veronica Cale, who has been a mainstay in the Wonder Woman's mythos, is nowhere to be found either. Introduced by Greg Rucka. Isn't it kind of funny how Absolute Wonder Woman brings in everything that we talk about? And they're like, where's Etta? Absolute Wonder Woman. Where's Veronica Cale? Absolute Wonder Woman. And I'm like, oh, wow. And then Cassie Sandsmark is reduced because she can't fly. Yeah, that is weird because I thought she could fly. Diana punched Yara Flor, which was very out of character. And yeah, it's also, here's the thing. What is Tom King's weird obsession with making every character he writes swear like a sailor? I don't understand this.
He thinks that's being edgy.
But that he has about as many edges as a filed down protractor. Yes, that's how like crazy I get with my memes. Cheetah is used as a mouthpiece. Device have changed Wonder Woman lore. Well, that's different. Altercation to Amazon's history introduced new elements and retcons that will. That's the interesting thing here, is because like you notice how this run barely ties into the regular DC universe, and it's not being referenced by the main line to the point where Jeremy Adams wanted to use like Wonder Girl for something, and they said, "Yeah, you can't use her." So I'm like, it seems to me at least that they're Azzarelloing this run where they're keeping it they're letting King tell his story, but they're keeping it as separate from the main DC universe as they can. What do you guys think? I'll start with Jid.
Well, about Donna Troy, it was so bizarre when she was swearing like a sailor, like cussing like a sailor in one of the issues where she's fighting
Like, bro, B word, and I'm like, what
the heck in that one. And then you mentioned something about the retcons. I had to touch on that because I'm a Donna Troy fan as well, and you know, Donna Troy fans, they're kind of divided of what origin they prefer for Diana and Donna. Some prefer the rescuing from a burning building origin, and some prefer the twin, Diana and Donna being twins. So, Rebirth has established that now that post-crisis is over and stuff, so, we're in a new era and stuff, that Diana rescued Donna Troy from burning building, and that's been her mainstay origin, consistent, because they got rid of the New 52 Donna Troy origin. Again, Donna Troy is just so butchered, but that's another story. But now Tom King has alludes to Donna growing up on the island. So Donna never really grew up on Themyscira, according to Rebirth. So again, it's just like he's picking and choosing what to do with these Wonder Woman characters and doesn't really know much about them. Because, even when Donna was Diana's twin, she really didn't grow up on the island because she was abducted by what was her name? The Dark Angel, right? So again, like there's no consistency and there's no like follow up and read through of not only Diana but also her side characters, and that just like irks me the wrong way. Especially with Donna Troy being so, again, like I said, her origins are so messy, and if you can't keep a consistent origin with her, you're making it even worse. So that's my only big qualm that I'd like to add to this.
All right. So Brit, how about you?
With Yara, she's had a problem since Future State, and with being, this stereotype of as a Brazilian character, as a POC, and it's like if you don't know how to write POC characters, stop, please stop, because it is so offensive, and especially when you do like the surface level research and try to make them as a stereotype. It takes you out of rooting for the character themselves, and King already has allegations of racism against him, so it's like just stop. And just with, I would like to see his list of no's that he didn't want to do for Wonder Woman. And honestly, I would say that if we saw that list, it would be everything that makes Diana, and Wonder Woman who she is. Because so far, just overall, he has written Diana as a plot device in her own, book for the Sovereign. He said that he doesn't like writing the Sovereign, monologues and stuff, but he continues to do so.
And yet you keep doing it. You're the writer. You can do what you want.
Right. And it just feels like he doesn't know how to write Diana. He doesn't know how to write her monologuing. He doesn't know how to write the dialogue, her true interactions with other characters. And, when this is over with the Sovereign, we will be able to see how he actually can, write Diana without the Sovereign's narrative, or narrating. And it just shows again how the characters
Watch,
are used.
He'll have Mouse Man narrate now.
Oh my God. No. But that's probably true.
Or wait, in the Batman arc, he'll have Batman narrate.
Yes. I would definitely see Batman narrating, and Mouse Man. And also, even though I wouldn't trust him with the female villains, it's kind of weird that we don't have the female villains getting respect either. Cersei, she is very, first of all, they need to change her design because that is not it.
Mhm.
Second, how she is supposed to be this powerful sorceress and she was taken out by a chimp and the Spectre. I know the Spectre is supposed to be powerful, but still, that
A
should have been
chimp.
more of a challenge. Cheetah and Grail, he overhyped that fight or whatever, and it was not what we expected. And just everything else is very much overhyped, and it gives you nothing. So when this run ends, it's going to be treated like the Azarello run, and it's going to be like an Elseworld. He can try to force Trinity, but if Emily is supposed to be in the next issue and she's supposed to be pregnant, like what happens to her baby?
Watch, she has a miscarriage. But here's the thing. Yeah, I agree with you. This run will be like, first off, this run will be forgotten. This isn't going to be like a run that's like really forgot. Here's the way people will talk about this run a year after it ends. Oh yeah, King wrote Wonder Woman, didn't he? That's it. And then I don't see many writers that have respect for Diana referencing that much here. It's going to be very telling if like the next writer comes on, whether or not that be Jeremy Adams, please, or like even who's the writer that did the Shazam book again? I keep forgetting her name.
Josie.
Josie Campbell, or Josie Campbell comes on, and whoever the writer is, and then inevitably Diana's gonna visit the island, right? And that's assuming where she's gonna have Trinity when she's off doing superhero stuff. It's gonna be hilarious if she goes to the island and never once talks about or goes to her daughter. That would, because that at that point, and then King even said that like the Trinity miniseries, which by the way, I'm starting to think isn't going to come out, because if it keeps getting delayed, it's like, why? If it keeps getting delayed and people forget about it, if a book gets delayed long enough and people forget about it, they're like, oh yeah, that's coming out, and then people forget about it. But if that even if that comes out, what I could see them doing is telling them, because King did hype up that some some tiny continuity retconning happens. Okay, retcon her out. That's the second hashtag. So, Brit, how would you fix this crap shoot?
All right. So as this whole show, and previously as we brought up, I've said that Wonder Woman's story is supposed to be about the struggles and the challenges women face, and also, with motherhood and being mothers. So with um having Emily and saying that she is, first you have her as Diana's challenger, a mentor on Themyscira, and then you imply that she's pregnant. So with that, she's supposed to have some type of significance, and as the catalyst of everything that's going on. So what I would have is that she's she's Diana's mentor on the island, and she's very ruthless in her own way. She's uh she's the one that's rebellious. And so she leaves the island and she is assaulted. I don't want to have the sovereign, so I would say that it was uh
Angleman,
no, I would say the lasso of
Dr.
lies.
Psycho.
No, I don't know, but it would be the lasso of lies used, and even if you do want to have the sovereign, it's some way of connection. Yeah, that works. And that is why she decided to go on a rampage. And when Diana finds this out, she knows she has that connection with Amelia, Emily, and she, even if she was, hard on Diana, if, anything like that, they had this sort of conflict, Diana still cares for her. So with knowing that she's pregnant, that gives her even more motivation to find her. Once she finds her, of course, you have to have this dramatic character death. So Amelia is, Emily, um, she dies giving birth to Trinity, but she gives Diana this, heroic speech about, basically, she knew that Diana would, grow up to be special, that she trusts Diana, that she can protect her child and teach her things, teach her what she taught Diana, things like that. And it's also just tying in that whole thing about sisterhood as well. And even though um, Trinity isn't Diana's, well, she isn't Diana's blood in the first place, but even more so because of who she is, with tying to this, rebellious Amazon that was Diana's mentor, that speaks more of even, children of adoption as well. So, yeah, I just think that that would have been a much better story than what we were given, and especially with the fact that you start off with this, you know, run with the runaway Amazon, and she's nowhere to be found.
Yeah, exactly. So, Jid, how would you fix the Wonder Woman run besides kick Tom King off it?
Well, first of all, let's stop having Superman and Batman mentioned in every single page.
Good
Like, it's
idea.
ridiculous. It's
As
That
much of a
too.
ridiculous.
Superman
That
fan
too.
as I am, I'm like, yeah, that doesn't. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love this entire concept of Emily becoming Diana's mentor in the past, and she is, like, she leaves the island for some reason. So maybe what I was thinking is maybe she can be like from the bottom McDowell side or something like that, and she is,
Ooh, that's why she's so aggressive.
right, right, exactly that. And also maybe like she didn't feel at home with the other Amazons, or some sort of conflict. Like, it could have been something like that, or you could have like Hippolyta and Emily maybe getting into it, and Emily left because she felt like she was pushing Diana too hard, and that could be, again, going back to Emily and Diana having this conversation, in when she's giving birth and she's dying from, she got attacked, I believe, like that. You can also tie this in with motherhood and womanhood, something that George Perez did in his run, which has been lacking in the entire Tom King run. Something like that would be so compelling to all of us. But
Yeah. With me, okay, there are a couple of things you could do besides doing this. So I sound like a broke record. What I would do is make it so the run still goes the same way, but the baby that Diana makes out of clay is actually a construct from Circe that will eventually fall apart, and that is a means of breaking Diana's psyche. It doesn't work, obviously, because I'm not pulling a Greg Rucka from Rebirth, but essentially make it so Circe was the mastermind the entire time, even with the Sovereign. All of this is the machinations of Circe instead. Like, she was it was Circe all along. Essentially that.
I mean, that's better than, Sovereign. You need to tie this in somehow with it being, Wonder Woman's original villain. If you want to say Wonder Woman has a Joker, even though, again, you are comparing this with Batman and Superman, it would be Cersei, at least. Cheetah, I would say the way um, fans, or how Rebirth presented her, it's it was giving very much, trying to make her a Catwoman like, or sympathetic, or how writers are doing villains so far of making them anti-heroes or giving them the Harley Quinn treatment of, being sympathetic, and she's now turning to the good side or something like that. So yeah, Cheetah is pretty much out, but Cersei being a powerful sorceress, this whole thing being an illusion by her in some type of way, or even bringing back the gods, of having them do something, they're always meddling, something like that to make this feel like it has a purpose, and it ties to Wonder Woman in a more uh epic type way.
Mm-hmm. What do you want to say, Jid?
Jared, I have to say, I love how your scapegoat is Cersei. Every single time something is wrong with Diana, it's always Cersei's fault. I love that so much, especially with Injustice. I died laughing when I heard that for the first time from you.
Yeah, because that way you explain why Diana's so evil.
I love how she's her scapegoat every single time.
Because she's the easiest one to use.
Yeah.
Because she can change reality, kind of.
Yeah.
And it's like, watch, I just got another idea. This is something I think King will actually do because he's that uncreative. He'll make it so Emily will die, and then her spirit will flow into Trinity. And then this will explain why Trinity was so aggressive, so hostile when she was an adult and growing up, because it's actually Emily.
Oh my goodness.
Tell me this is not something philosophical that King would try, Brit.
It is.
It's almost stupid enough for King to try. We could just be smart and just make it Cersei all along. Again, that needs to be a song. I think I may have got onto comedy gold, people. So then, all right. So let's talk. How are the fans responded? Because first off, all right. So Jid, this is the first time you've been on a podcast since I started a hashtag campaign. Good.
Okay.
Lord.
Oh my goodness.
Good. So, Jid, begin.
Okay, I wish I went about this differently now that I look back on it, because I saw one of my friends being attacked. Well, not attacked, but just be sassed at for no reason, because one of my friends had said, Octavia, in that screenshot, she said, "Let Diana team up with a woman for once." And something that me and her have talked about reading Wonder Woman is to have more women who are, a part of her allies. If you can do Superman and Batman, you can definitely do Mara and, I don't know, Zatanna, But that's what she was trying to imply. And then you have Danielle St. Pierre, who's like, I think Casadonna and Yara are women. And I think that's a very condescending response to a fan's criticism. And my thing is, like, I wish I went about this differently, because I'm the person who gets really, really confrontational and defensive when it comes to my friends. So I was like, hey, like, we know why did you delete that comment? Because Daniel St. Pierre, he deleted that comment, and he says, we did see your eyes, like, I said this, we did see your comment, and we know that Diana's prodigies are women. We are asking where her female allies, Etta Candy, or her superheroine friends, like I said, Black Canary, Mara, Zatanna. And then I'm not going to read Daniel's entire dissertation here, but
he basically said, I don't decide who goes in the runs, when King has said, oh, a lot of that was Daniel's idea. So I'm like, oh, wait a second. So King lied?
Yeah. What I wanted to say, though, I just wish I had ignored the comment altogether, because Daniel St. Pierre, while he's drawing the art, like, he doesn't have much creative control. And I know, like, it's kind of hard to be so hard on the artist. So I wish I took it differently back then. I do apologize to Daniel St. Pierre for doing that in the first place, because you never know what artists are going through, right? So always, like, you don't know what you don't know. Like, so always try to, like, just have empathy is what I'm trying to say. And
there's a reason why I don't put the hashtags under his posts.
Right, exactly. Because I regret the way I went out about it, but I was just so frustrated that day, and it's no excuse really, but I just would like to extend an apology to Daniel St. Pierre for going a bit too overkill with that.
All right. But so the idea, I mean, he was being sassy, so I get that. But the problem with this, so again, I will say, all right, so Your boy has been blocked on all platforms but Twitter by Tom King because he can't take criticism. Because all I've done is that when he posts the issue, I just said, are you actually going to write Diana, or are you going to write about other characters that you'd rather be writing other than Diana? Oh, okay. Cameron actually has some ideas, by the way. He says, have this entire run be about the Wonder family going to war with the government because they're trying to buy or take Themyscira for themselves. That's a better idea as well. Why is it that we come up with better ideas than DC does? I don't understand this, but it's like, the thing is, you know what we're talking about, and yeah, to a degree, I understand what you're saying, Brit, but I mean Jid, but still, he could have handled it a little better. But it's like, even with King, it's like, to be clear, the hashtag campaign is not to get King fired from DC. It's just to get him off the Wonder Woman book into a book that he probably would have more fun writing. Because so far, let me put it this way, King on the book has not helped the sales at all. And the sales are going down. And it's starting to get, you notice the tide is kind of turning because more and more people are starting to go, yeah, this is horrible. The fact that comicbook.com is publishing articles saying this is the weakest DC book, I'm like, some tide is turning. What do you think, Britt?
Okay, so first, Jid, you can apologize, but at the same time, with being condescending, no, I'm not going for that, because with King and Saint Pierre going back and forth with who did who, pointing fingers and stuff like that, Saint Pierre, gaslighting and trying to be innocent, but we've, Tom saying in interviews, and even Saint Pierre himself, when they are getting the praise, when they feel like they are on the up and up, they, take credit for certain things. So Saint Pierre has taken credit for a lot of the decisions within this run. So no, he's not innocent with, the certain things. And it's not fair that Wonder Woman has to have Batman and Superman forced into her book, but she doesn't have that same respect within their books. You don't see Wonder Woman teaming up with Batman. Of course, Batman editorial doesn't want any superpowered beings in Gotham anyway, except for if he, wants to have a cameo with Superman. But we see that Superman is used as a plot device, or being possessed, like in Hush. And in Superman, Diana obviously isn't mentioned because of the status quo, her being a threat to that. So, to have them in her book, in at the expense of her own cast, no, you have the right as fans to voice that, and and for the artists, you know, whether it's King or Saint Pierre, to have that sort of answer instead of taking heed to the fans, that just shows that not only do you not care for the character and you want to have her placed into the comfort of whether what Saint Pierre wants to draw, same thing as how Joel did with Batman 39 and 40, wanting to draw Wonder Woman, but what did King do? He plagiarized the story. Um, so, you know, these characters, they are just caretakers. They don't own these characters. We are fans. We are the ones that are buying the issues, and supporting. So yeah, you should take heed to what the fans say. And it's also constructive criticism. And yes, some fans are going to be a little bit uh passionate, and and say things that may come off as disrespectful, but your response, Jid, was not disrespectful. It was something that you had way more maturity than Saint Pierre. And your response to taking up for Octavia too, and just, that is sometimes what these artists and writers need. They need that constructive criticism. And on top of that, with the downward spiral this run is going on, at some point, you know, uh, the comments being said, they will be, like I said, taken heed to. So no, you don't need to apologize really,
And you
because
weren't that snarky. I'm just gonna tell you that right
exactly,
there. You said, yeah, we saw what you said, and you clarified. I didn't get snark from that.
yeah, it was just like you are basically the one that's very respectful within all this. You very neutral. So if you know King, if you don't basically kiss his feet or whatever and praise the crappy way he writes these characters, he will block you, and that is so immature as a grown middle-aged man
King
to have
immature?
such
No.
to have such this attitude when again we are the ones that are buying these books. So yeah, you did right. If Saint Pierre throw a tantrum or whatever like that, that's on him. But at the same time, again, you were right with what you said. You care about this character. You love this character. Um, and yeah, I just feel like Saint Pierre, he's taken on the same type of attitude King has, which is that egotistical type of thing, and they need to be brought down, you know, some notches.
Thank you guys so much. And Brit, this day was really emotional for me, as you know, because I messaged you about this too. Like, I'm getting a bit personal now, but we talked about this. We saw like our own Wonder Woman mutuals who are, you know, even if they don't like SuperWonder, but a lot of them were just so heartbroken during this time. And a lot of them were like, it's not worth fighting for Wonder Woman anymore. And it's like we're trying so hard, and we get crapped on for trying to voice our opinions. And it honestly, that morning, I was at work. It broke my heart when I saw a friend of mine who said like it's not worth fighting for her anymore. Like, I'm exhausted. Like, all I'm gonna do is write my own fan fiction and draw my own art, but I can't do this anymore. And that broke my heart because I'm like that should not be the case. Like, we should be united. We should all be so passionate. And Jared, you saved me from completely walking away from comics at one point too. And I'll mention this
Oh,
on the
really?
show. No, you seriously did, because at one point I was just so done with Wonder Woman. I was telling Brit like, hey girl, like I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm gonna go to pop music. I'm listening to my Britney Spears and whatever that's coming out right now. But when I had a conversation with you, Jared, thank you so much for pulling me back in and you know showing me that it is worth fighting for Wonder Woman. And this King Off Wonder Woman hashtag that you started, Jared. Like, we're gonna keep it
I
going.
started. You guys popularized it. Let's face it, because
Yeah.
I say this. The reason why I say we is because what I originally thought was going to happen is I would just post the hashtag, because I have a relatively small Twitter account. I was like, okay, I'll post it. Maybe something happens. Great. Then you guys share it. Then it blows the hell up. I'm just like, what the? It's like, and by the way, I just want to say this to anyone that says that Super Wonder fans don't like Wonder Woman. You realize Super Wonder fans started this freaking hashtag, right? It's not put Wonder Woman back with Superman. It's get this untalented writer off Wonder Woman. I wonder. It got to the point. It's to the point where the main Brazilian fan account is now using the hashtag. More and more fan accounts are dropping this thing. By Laughing Dragon says, I don't know if you saw my previous comment about comics where Wendy loses her powers and turns Catholic and gets, yeah, that what Brit and I talked about the JLA Act of God, horrible story. But the thing about, but with this, it's like the reason why I've always maintained we got to keep fighting, because if we don't keep fighting, this same thing just continues forever. It doesn't stop. That's why we got to this point. We got to this point because there weren't enough people start like actually taking a stand and saying, now we're done. we're done. Get off the book. Respect this character. Because here's the thing. Here's what really gets me pissed is DC has the nerve to talk about how much of a very special character Wonder Woman is. How like important to our culture she is. She is important. I'm not trying to downplay it. I'm just talking about their hypocrisy. They talk about she's like an inspiration. Yet they don't give her an animated project. I knew the game was going to be canceled, so there's like that, but they don't give her an animated project or a movie. Say what you want about Zack Snyder, but at least he prioritized putting in Wonder Woman in the second DCEU movie. Anyway, then you get to to a degree, I've said this. I understand why they put King on the book because, like it or not, he is a big name in comics. So they figured after the sales crash of the Clunrad run, unjustifiably, by the way, because I'm reading through the Clunrad run, it's not that bad. And then, by the way, be on the lookout for a review of that. So then you get to, so he's a big name. So they figured after that, let's put King on. Maybe he can drum it up. He did so with Supergirl, even though that book was in dollar bins until it was announced as a DCU like project, and then it was in demand. So I'm like, yeah, I think maybe King stuff isn't as good as people. I don't think King is the sales draw that DC thinks he is. But so to a degree, I understand the logical thought process of putting him on the book. And Sampere, even I would put Sampere on this book because his art is superb. Mostly superb. There, again, except for that Donna Troy image. That's the only image where I was like, why does Donna look dead? But besides that, it's fine. But if the fans, but when DC and the fans do stuff like this and refuse to stand up for the character and defend the integrity of this character, it is the fans' decision. Also, sucks the game got canceled. It was, I think we did an Elseworlds. It was a couple of episodes along. I'll look it up after I finish this rant. What I always say is if DC, if the company that owns these characters aren't going to protect them, it is the fans' responsibility to stand up and do so. That's the point of being a fan. If DC is not going to protect these characters from being dragged through the mud and mischaracterized by writers like Tom King, it is the fans' responsibility and, in my mind, obligation to stand up and say, you're done. Respect this character. She means too much to global culture. Diana's now a global hero, not just for America, Tom King. She is, and this is coming from someone that enjoys patriotism and is very patriotic. Even I'm like, yeah, that's cringe, bro. Because all of a sudden you care about the flag hitting the ground. But anyway, when you get to this, it's like, it's a fan's responsibility and obligation to stand up for these characters when the companies that own them either refuse to or drag them through the mud. Rant over. Thank you for my TED Talk. So I'll find that episode. So thoughts?
Well, you left us speechless. Well,
Thank you.
You know, like Wonder Woman fans right now, a lot of them have, you know, they are not holding back anymore. They are.
I love it. I love how Wonder Woman fans are now posting stuff in James Gunn's comments.
No, like the way they're going at James Gunn, like personally, I wish like just give me personally, I would give James Gunn just a bit of grace and just let things just marinate for now. Like when it happens, basically is what I'm trying to say to y'all. But I love the passion that they have, and I don't want to say that we inspired them or like we gave them that like we ripped but honestly, I feel like we've ripped the Band-Aid open for them. Because especially with the King of Wonder Woman, the hashtags, I think that just took everything to the next level. Especially with Wonder Woman fans becoming now so vocal in the way they haven't been in the past.
Yeah.
And you know, I love that for our fandom right now, and I love that we're able to express ourselves in a way that we haven't in the past, and that's partially why I think, you know, DC has been so comfortable just stepping over Wonder Woman.
Exactly.
So 100%.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I got the idea for from the Snyder fandom. What does that say? Because the Snyder fandom started the release the Snyder Cut hashtag, put it in all the comments of WB, and it worked. And I figured DC Comics is more likely to listen to fan backlash than WB, because the WB is like a big company. So I'm like, okay, let's try this. And again, that's why I've always said it's not about firing King, because that's extremely less likely to happen. All it is, just move him to a different book and put someone that understands the character and wants to write her on the book. And by the way, Latvian Dragon. So we talked about Act of God in episode 13. We talked about it actually multiple episodes, but there was one when we did there were a few Elseworlds, but go to the SuperWonder Legacy podcast playlist on the channel. You should be able to find it. But anyway, so it's like, yeah, because here's the issue. Fans don't stand up for these characters enough. I see people going, oh, just take it and like just drop the book. Just drop the book. And I'm like, what if when you pick it up, a worse person is on the book? Or like he does all this irreparable damage to the character like he did with Wally West in Heroes in Crisis. And this is why Jid, this is why I say put Jeremy Adams on Wonder Woman after Flash, because after King, because not only does he want to, but Jeremy Adams, one of the things he's known for, he was on the Flash and successfully rehabilitated Wally West after King utterly character assassinating him. This man, you could say, has made a career on fixing King's mistakes. So that's why I'm saying do that. He has the experience to do this. And then it's like, and then DC, be more discerning on who you put on this character. Put someone that actually get on a Zoom call with all of your creatives and say, who wants to write for Wonder Woman? Or sell the rights back to the family, or better yet, buy the rights fully from the Marston family, and then cancel the book. That's it. Because the reason why they have the way it works right now is that DC doesn't wholly own the rights to Wonder Woman, and part of the contract is they have to have a Wonder Woman book in circulation. So I would say fully buy the rights from the Marston family, cancel the book, give it some time off, and then bring the character back. Still have her show up in like other people's books. Obviously, still do that. But she needs massive rehabilitation. Some could say a Jeremy Adams rehabilitation. But that just put a character in there that loves Wonder Woman and wants to write her, and it works. It's like, the reason I say Jeremy Adams, Green Lantern and Aquaman are literally the best books at DC right now, and he wants to write those, and he wants to write Wonder Woman. Give it to someone that wants to write Wonder Woman. Even Josie Campbell wants to write Wonder Woman. Give her to someone that wants to write her. Or, and this is Brit and I's dream, hey, Charles Sewell, how much would we have to ask you to pay you to come back to write for DC? Because according to my friend Robert, he's talked to Charles, and Charles would love to come back to DC. And I'm like, for the love of God, give him the book. By the way, Latvian Dragon, just the Golden Age, like, first appearance version of Wonder Woman is going to public domain, not the main version. Because if it is, I would so, like, grab up the rights and then so dunk on this run and basically, oh yeah, that was just a bad nightmare I had once. Anyway, closing thoughts on the run before we get to our reviews. Brit, you want to start?
Basically, they need to hurry up and get King off this book. First, he didn't want to write it in the first place, so it's not like you keep reiterating. It's not firing him from DC. It's just taking him off a book that he initially did not want to write, and we obviously see
and
that
clearly
he
still doesn't want to write.
Yeah, and it's very forgettable. We have those moments of the hype moments, negative hype moments of, panels, dialogue, and everything like that. But overall, it's just not something that is, it's not something that really just what he said about Perez, as disrespectful as that was, yeah, he's not, whatever expectations that he set for himself, he's not meeting them, which is obviously, I mean, if you come in wrong, it's gonna go wrong. And to see that how this has somewhat brought um the fandom together and has brought up the conversation for Wonder Woman to get respect, you know. And like Jid and you said, that for so long, the Wonder Woman fans have been disrespected and not taken serious. You see that on comic forums. You see that on, especially on Reddit and CBR. It's either fans going back and forth um, at each other, or it's like Batman fans, thinking that Wonder Woman is supposed to be like a femme fatale for Batman, because they're so wrapped up with the JLU mindset, and that is why she doesn't get the respect that she, deserves. So when you have, you know, true fans that really, really care for Diana, it's not disregard ships, disregard, it's for her character individually. That is, to have, fans like that that are, articulating their, concerns and everything like that. That is how we move the needle, and maybe at some point DC will take, all of us serious, that yes, we do want Wonder Woman, more Wonder Woman content that is respectful to Diana. We don't care about the ships, don't, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about just her character as an individual. And Tom King, with him being on this run, it really shows how DC thought of Wonder Woman, and yeah, we're not having that.
Yeah. How about you, Jid? Concluding thoughts on this?
Let's end on a happy note. Let's light up a candle each and every day. Where manifest like Greg Rucka comes back for the
I would
third
take
time
him coming back
for
at this
Wonder
point.
Woman, and because he did that with New 52, so he can just like tie up some loose ends, and
This is the one time where I'm like, yes, have her have that break. I've never had a daughter.
Just maybe send her to the psych ward again, and have her hallucinate
She
who
has to
Trinity
go to a
is.
psych ward
We need this.
every few runs because you keep having writers that screw her up.
So yeah, that's my concluding thoughts. Just very short and sweet, and bring back Greg Rucka.
All right. Speaking of sales, so top 10 bleeding cool bestseller list. Where's Wonder Woman? Right, yeah. Alien Avengers came out. I literally, so what's kind of funny? Alien Avengers, Aliens versus Avengers comes out so like sporadically that I don't know it's coming out until I literally pick up my books and I'm like, oh, it was an Alien Avengers month. By the way, fantastic like run ever. And Storm, by the way, Brit, I wanted to tell you. So you know how Marvel is doing their Ultimate Universe right now? They're redoing it.
Yeah.
They put Storm and Black Panther together and they have a kid.
Really?
So here's the funny part. I literally saw a tweet. So it's Marvel. So Peter and MJ can't be together. And then Jonathan Hickman puts them together in Ultimate Spider-Man. Storm and Black Panther can't be together and have their kid Azari. They're put together in Ultimate Black Panther.
That is, I mean, Marvel is going to, they are going to do, as awful as they are, now that you've, educated me on that, they are going to do something that pleases the fans in some type of way. So I'll give them that credit. And definitely to see Storm, despite the whole Wolverine thing, but overall, for her character to have like this sort of Renaissance type,
she has her own book.
Yeah, to for her to get this type of appreciation or respect, it's very refreshing. But then at the same time, you want Wonder Woman to have the same, type of you know, uh respect from her video game, from, as Jit said, we have to be patient and see what will happen with Paradise Lost if Wonder Woman is to have a solo, which I doubt it will. If she is to have another solo film, it would be in the maybe chapter 2 of DCU.
Even though
But
chapter 1 is literally called Gods and Monsters.
yeah, it's yeah. But
Mhm. Cameron brings up a good point. Patience can only get us so far, Brit.
yeah, I mean, I'm very hesitant on the thing is, like Jid said, and we've talked about this, Jared, is that I am not so much as a negative Nancy. I wouldn't say that. However, don't do that. Don't do me.
Then why
Don't.
do you DM me every single day?
I try not to be.
Literally,
However,
Brit DMs me practically every morning, like, you believe in this stuff?
I mean, I'm a realist at the same time, and so it's
I
kind of
know, Brit. I
like,
know, Brit. I love you. You're good.
I love you too. So it's like, um, basically, if it's not there yet, I won't believe it. And with some of the things that I've heard, it's when you know things and it's kind of like you're trying to wait and see. And like Cameron said, having patience is a little, it, it's, it's becoming a little bit difficult, especially with DC because we know what what we had, with DCEU, as flawed as it was, it still had Wonder Woman having a solo film. She was in the second DCEU film,
And she was kind of important in Justice League.
yeah, and
The Zack Snyder version, not the version that doesn't exist.
right. And just her importance though. The fact that James Gunn made these he was basically very much like how a politician would talk. You have all these expectations, you have these, promises that are said, but 2 years later and nothing. So yeah, it's very we're being cautiously optimistic, but at the same time being skeptical of things. But yeah, with Wonder Woman, with the fans talking, maybe there's a chance to be a turnaround. The only thing is a catch-22 type thing, a double-edged sword, is because with Wonder Woman's book going down and having King on the book, the reason why they put King on the book is because they felt like she needed a, a sales boost. And if King doesn't have that sales boost that they expected, then they feel like the character has failed, not so much as the writer. So that is even
And
more so
Brit,
why
you literally just gave me a fantastic transition.
I do.
Counterpoint, Absolute Wonder Woman.
Yeah. So to wrap all that up,
Yeah.
basically it's not the character, it's the writer. And the more fans, emphasize on that, saying that King is the problem, then DC will see, oh, the sales are failing because of King, not because of Wonder Woman as a character.
Yeah. So Absolute Wonder Woman, and by the way, I agree with you. That's a fantastic point. So Absolute Wonder Woman number 5. All right. Here's some things that I was thinking. First off, I like how this book, how this issue, homage to Cersei's ability to transform people, because that's one of her things she does in the comics. Now, what I loved about this, if you're a fan of Greek mythology, so this book has a Pegasus and a giant sword, and then, okay, in all of my years of reading Wonder Woman, never did I think I'd see the day when Diana's literally transformed into Medusa to fight a giant. She turns into a kaiju to fight a giant kaiju. And I just realized this. Have you guys seen the movie Clash of the Titans?
No.
Yes, you did, Brit.
I did. Wait. Oh yeah, I did. Oh.
I know, because you tweeted me about this.
Yeah.
So this is literally what that is. Because in that story, Perseus cuts off the head of Medusa to fight the Kraken, or like a creature. Well, in the movie, not necessarily in the story, but in the movie, and he holds the head up, and it turns the Kraken to stone. In this, Diana turns into Medusa to turn the giant monster into stone, and that is one of the most badass things I have read in a Wonder Woman book in so long. If there was a perfect way to end the book, Thompson found it. Like, oh my God, is this freaking cool? And by the way, your boy picked up some covers, because you guys know that when it comes to Wonder Woman, I get a bunch of covers. So what I got is, I got the Hayden Sherman one, the regular one. I got this variant by Ji Hyun Lee. Right there. I love that it highlights the giant ass sword, and it looks very new 52-ish. And then I got this one by Homar.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Again, Absolute Wonder Woman is one of those books. It's gotten to the point where whenever I go to my LCS to pick up my books, and I see like on the shelf they have other covers of Absolute Wonder Woman, I'm like, I'll pick that up. So I want to support the crap out of this book. Because again, yes, and okay. So I know that like, yes, it to a degree it looks like they're pairing Diana with Steve again. I know it's like, oh, the same thing over and over again. But here's the thing. And Brit, this is a counterpoint to what you always say. The thing is, yes, it's the same, but it feels like a Wonder Woman book, where the main Wonder Woman book doesn't feel like Wonder Woman. So that's why I excuse it in this, because it actually feels like I'm reading a Wonder Woman comic.
I will give you that. Thompson, well, I guess in the interview she did say that Steve isn't a love interest.
Of
So
this
he's
one even
just,
more.
so it's something more to him, which honestly he needs to be something more. But
What
if
if he
she,
secretly becomes an antagonist in the run?
that would honestly, I would say, okay, you have something going there. I mean, give him something else besides being the generic military default that he's, you know, just used to being. Uh, oh, with Cersei, I would say that Cersei showed a little bit of an edge here as her protection for Diana, but she needs a little bit more. We need a little bit more of the sorceress, the evil sorceress that basically became a little bit more mothering or had a bit of softness because of Diana. We need a little bit more of that. However, I do like the mother and daughter relationship. Um, and Diana turning into Medusa gave very much God of War, the video game, and it was very unique, and I actually like it. I like that she has multiple lassos that give her, you know, it makes sense for her to have multiple lassos, other than Trinity having multiple lassos just to being um, a Mary Sue.
But real quick, also, when I was reading the issue, this is something that I thought was really interesting. So Minerva goes through the whole story of who Medusa is, and then she references Medusa being violated too, and I'm like, oh, you went that far to reference that, because they could have glossed over that, because I didn't expect in an American comic for them to reference that, and I'm like, oh, okay, you're going very mature and edgy. I dig it. How about you, Jid? What do you think of Absolute Wonder Woman #5?
Honestly, like I am starting to see the more feminist themes that Kelly was talking about that she wants to implement in this run. I'm slowly seeing it because I I was a person who was really burned with Wonder Woman comics, and I feel like Brit can attest to this as well here. So you and me have been really hard on Absolute Wonder Woman in general, which I feel like we do have the right to feel that way because again, like we have been through it with Wonder Woman, but at the same time though, like I feel like I have to be a bit more graceful when it comes to Kelly Thompson's Wonder Woman, like just accepting as a new story and accepting it as an Elseworld, and also like let authors tell their stories in full because it's still very fresh. Like give it at least like a few more issues, and then I can come up with my collective decision about Absolute Wonder Woman. But honestly, like the artwork is so stunning, and I love it. And
The
you see
coloring,
Diana's compassion. Yeah, the coloring.
Here's the thing on that shit, because when I've seen this many times when a writer wants to put feminist themes in a book, it can come off as preachy. Now, what Thompson is doing here, she's doing it organically. It's not like she's bashing Steve, because that's what I find a lot of untalented writers do when they're trying to put in feminist. But what Thompson does is she makes it, she just has Diana doing cool stuff. And I'm like, yep, that's what you should be doing. Show me why Diana is so awesome. Hey, King, this is how you show Diana is awesome. When she turns into Medusa, I'm like, yeah, that's her doing really cool stuff, and that's you embracing feminism in an organic way. By the way, Latvian Dragon says, why isn't Tom King making an Amanda Waller series? I know. I really hope Absolute Super Wonder happens, but let me put it this way: if it happens, great. What I like about Absolute Wonder Woman is they're doing literally what I have said that DC needs to do with Wonder Woman. Give her good stories first. Then you can give her a love interest. She's so far has a good story. Once you give her a good story, then maybe you can put in a little romance. And then Laughing Dragon says, I really hope we get Super Wonder and Absolute, but they're making Lois. Don't be so sure about that. Let me put it this way. We'll see. But let me put it this way. Even on that, just because he gets with Lois and Absolute Superman, maybe doesn't mean he'll stay with Absolute Lois. But my point is, so far these writers have done a pretty decent job, and particularly Kelly. I think Absolute Wonder Woman, and I'm not just saying this as like because Wonder Woman is like my favorite superhero now. Absolute Wonder Woman is the best Absolute book, bar none. The best. 100%. What do you guys think?
And that's a consensus on everywhere that you go in comic book forums, Twitter, Reddit. Like they're gonna say Absolute Wonder Woman is their favorite. Like even my friends who read comics, they're saying that they rank it with Absolute Wonder Woman as their number one over Batman and Superman. And to me, what is kind of crazy is I actually prefer Absolute Superman right now over all the Absolute books right now. And maybe it's because I'm not as inversed with Superman, so I think that's why it's so compelling to me at the moment. But I love that Absolute Wonder Woman is dominating both of them because it's so rare to see her take the lead and be more successful or be more critically acclaimed, in contrast to Batman and Superman, who always have been the number one, number two over her. So it's really, really refreshing, and it makes me really, really happy to see that. So
yeah, here's the thing: when the book was coming out, I said for the longest time, you have to look at how well consistently the book is going to do over the course of like I said, like, let's look at it from like an arc perspective, and then we'll see how it is later. So the arc consistently has been the top 10 sales for the month consistently, and it's been that and Absolute Batman have been the only books that are like consistently in the top 10. And Wonder Woman being in there, Jid, to your point, says it should tell DC. Now, currently what DC probably thinks is it's just the Absolute Universe hype. Eventually, they got to realize that, no, it's just because people are identifying with Wonder Woman. It's not the character, it's the writer you have on the book. Brit, as someone that has been more critical of Absolute Wonder Woman, your thoughts?
Okay, so yeah, my only thing is not rehashing what's happening in the main line. But if you go on to, I would say, yes, I'm critical only because I don't want the same story beats and fall into the same, like, with doing something different. This was presented as um a Snyder saying that the main line is very, you know, middle road conservative in that sense of tradition. This is supposed to be something that's a little that's different, that's, you know, hyping it up and everything like that. Yes, it's gonna be darker, edgier, because it's, you know, dark side vision or whatever. But at the same time, the characters are supposed to be within themselves the same as they are in the main verse. Um, DC at this point needs to have, you know, multiple iterations of these characters to gain new fans. When you do the same thing over and over, obviously fans are not going to invest. With this issue, and as always, Jared, you have to pull me back to get another perspective, to not be so hard on things. And like I said, Cersei and Diana's dynamic as mother and daughter, it that is very interesting. I would like to, you know, continue reading that whole thing, how it develops. Um, the fact that Thompson addressed Medusa's, you know, story and basically, you know, um, held Athena accountable and addressed that, that is something that's kind of like, okay, yeah, we're getting somewhere. And then the fact that all the other, you know, goddesses are very much important in this Diana story. That's something that we don't get often in the main line for Diana. We got it with Historia, and she did say that Historia was inspiration. So that is a plus. But yeah, it's miles better than the mainline Diana. Whether honestly, whether it's King's book or Justice League or Diana in guest appearing in other books, absolute Wonder Woman right now is, you know, the safe haven, I would say, for Wonder Woman right now.
That's why I felt, because again, I dropped the main Wonder Woman book, and you may be wondering, Jared, I thought you did that before. Yeah, but that was before Absolute Wonder Woman, and there was no other Wonder Woman content for me to consume. Now with this, I'm like, oh, so I get a Wonder Woman book that I know I'm going to enjoy. I think at this point, and you know what's interesting? This book has gotten me interested in checking out Kelly Thompson's other work. So it's like, hey, DC, this is what happens when you put when you match a character with a writer that loves them. When you get a good run, I go, hey, you know what? I liked how she wrote Wonder Woman. So she's Birds of Prey and all that stuff. I'll go check that out. And then I'm like, there are some times where even I'll be like, maybe I don't agree with that, but all right. I will say the other cool part about this, after she turns this creature to stone, she goes, okay, hang on one second. She just flies right through it and just shatters it. See, this is Tom King. Wonder Woman's not a contradiction. This is how you write the peace-loving warrior that Diana is. That's what you can do. That's what you can do. And then Laughing Dragon says, would love Diana call out the gods for turning female victims into animals because DC barely... Oh, I'm sure they will. Based upon this, and like they're calling out Athena and all that stuff, I'm sure that they will call out the gods. Because as far as we know, because remember, the god, at least Zeus, is an antagonist in this book. Because remember, the implication from issue 1 is that Zeus is the reason why the Amazons vanished. And first off, guys, how great is it when we get a universe where the Amazons were the world's first superheroes? How awesome is that? That the Amazons are getting more respect than they've ever gotten in the main line.
Yeah, that's always appreciated.
Yeah. It's incredible. So we go from one good book to one mad book, Superman 23. So Zois, yes, I'm calling her that because she got General Zod's powers. So Zois screws up and gets Jimmy injured, and then she tells Clark that she took the powers for granted and stuff, and it's like she basically says, I've treated these powers like it's all fun and games, and I'm like, oh, so literally you're telling me that Lois is very shallow. Thank you. And I had to put in, so she's a Mary Sue in this, and basically the same people that are critiquing that critique Superman, Wonder Woman are praising Clark and Zois. And then, of course, the tease for issue 24 is Zois will join the Justice League, which, oh God, I'm like, it was going to happen, but I'm just like, what are we doing? What are we doing, guys? So Brit, I'll start with you. Your thoughts on this?
Okay, so first, yeah, the hypocrisy of, this whole storyline. At first, calling out the Superman fans, at first they thought Lois was like this future daughter. And that's one thing that was very weird because they call, Clark and Diana, say, brother and sister or the eugenics type thing. And then once finding out that it was Lois, the first thing they talked about was, oh, they're going to go to the moon and go, knock boots and stuff like that, or Lois having the powers, Superman doesn't have to hold back, or that they can now have another super kid because they don't like John anymore. So, have a, better kid basically. So everything that they've criticized Superman and Wonder Woman's relationship of being, yeah, it's what they say about Zois and about this relationship and kind of what we've seen within the book. Williamson is he's very middle road with how he writes, these events, these books, and it's just he doesn't want to tip the scale. And he's already said that. He said he has acknowledged that controversy sells, but he doesn't want to write it. He wants to write that happy-go-lucky type thing. And really, this story is so surface level, and it's a repeat of basically All-Star Superman. And I think it was a post-crisis story where Lois got powers or whatever. They continue to try to basically make her like Diana Light. And pretty much this story is glossed over by Dan Mora's art. But for Lois to admit, or for Williamson to write it that way, that it was just a fun type thing. It wasn't actually taking the powers as a responsibility, and be take it serious. It was just that. It was just something for fun. And like I said, it's just also with her, she's not written as an equal. She's just written as Superman's sidekick. And the last issue 22, when they were supposed to have like this date thing, it showed that Clark was, he was written as really, really happy that Lois finally has powers so they can do the things that he wants to do. And he doesn't have to be just Clark Kent, or, they can have these sort of superhero or dates that, superhero couples will go on. And it's like, yeah, this is the same thing that, again, was criticized with Clark and Diana. While we have the Superman and Wonder Woman book, where Clark and Diana are going on quote unquote normal dates as just trying to be, this normal couple, you have Lois glorifying powers. So again, that speaks to the eugenics allegations and stuff like that. And again, this, first of all, taking Zod's powers, it it doesn't really make sense because he was like light years away. So how you can explain how
But
she ended
Brit,
up with the
true
powers?
love will find a way.
Oh gosh. But trying, Jared, but trying to again have her have powers, it really speaks to the fact that they don't know what to do with Lois's character, and with trying to put her on the level with Clark, um, yeah, it's the fact that she needs powers to do so. But at the same time, even with the powers, we see that she is not the equal that they want her to be. She's very much the sidekick or just another redundant Supergirl.
Oh yeah. How about you, Jid?
I choose to be very, very careful with the way I talk about female characters, um, especially with Lois. My thing with her is that she is supposed to be someone who sees Superman's perspective without having his powers and having his you know his world, right? Because she's an Earth girl and he's from Krypton, whatever, and that's how they get together and stuff. But my thing is like, if you take away her humanness or like her her mortality, you're making her a god just like him. Again, very much same criticism against SuperWonder for being two divine gods getting together or whatnot.
Or
So
eugenics?
eugenics, pretty much eugenics. And again, I hate using that word eugenics because eugenics has, it's harmed civilizations, it's harmed so much of the world's population throughout centuries. So like, but people even using that term, it's so sickening. But my thing is, but if Lois is supposed to be someone who's human, keep her human. Like that's basically a big part of her core is that she's an Earth girl. She's an American woman who is tries to see Superman's point of view. She doesn't all the way 100%, obviously, and that's basically why writers choose to write that story is because she still doesn't know. And I don't know. I think the past few issues where they had her disrespect the Kents, I was like, what? That's not something Lois would do. Well, in my head, she would not do that. But of course, Lois has been written off to be weird in some comics, but that's just my thing. And yeah, and with her, being this like Mary Sue, I would say it's more so just like the powers don't really do much anything to her. Like I don't know, I've not seen her be affected by kryptonite. Did I miss an issue where that happened? Like correct me if I'm wrong, but like
No.
right?
No,
Like that'll be something so compelling. How does Lois react to kryptonite? Or how does Lois react to the sun? Red sun, because red sun is when Clark loses his powers. How does she go about it? That'll be such an interesting take, but they're afraid to do that with Lois, and that's why she's stuck in this like static character.
That's when she's a Mary Sue. She's not allowed to have a weakness, Jid.
Mm-hmm.
and
That's what it
also,
is. Hmm?
also, with her having the powers and in her reasoning for the whole doomsday thing, Williamson tried to address it to say that, her motivation isn't just because Clark died. But yes, it's very much still her main issue with Doomsday is having this so-called, PTSD of Clark dying. And that's basically her sole motivation as the love interest. She revolves around Clark. And, you know, as a female reader, as, a woman, myself, Lois is not she's not the inspiring female character that some, want to prop her up as. She's her entire, obviously, her creation, is to revolve around Superman as his love interest. And with giving her powers, um, for writers to say that she needed the powers to understand his world and she still doesn't, Clark tried to, how Williamson wrote it as Clark, voicing his concerns and his fears about Doomsday. And all she had to say pretty much was, oh, that's dark. So she really didn't take heed to that until Jimmy, was affected by it. And it still gives that notion that she still doesn't understand that just because you give her powers and just because she's, going around like a, a sidekick, that doesn't truly mean she understands and have that true perspective. And, and that is the thing. Yeah, she is just the human girl. And but we've seen the story where Clark chooses, to disown his Kryptonian heritage in order to be more human for Lois. But when trying to put her in Clark's world, it it doesn't fit, you know. And what Jid said about her disrespecting the Kents, with her saying that she didn't want to, be around them or whatever she said about them, you
Mhm.
know, it yeah, the Kents have been being disrespected since Rebirth. We had Tomasi, trying to prop up Lois at the expense of Martha and Diana. And then here we have where she doesn't want to, I guess, spend time with them or whatever. But even in Post Crisis, we've seen that Lois really, you know, had this sort of um, relationship with the Kents, or even just that understanding of Smallville, being on the farm and everything like that. She didn't really like it. She is very much a city girl, that can be that can have its charm, but at the same time, she is written as very insensitive and annoying. Um,
But that's just Lois.
well, yeah, but if you want her to be likable, I'm saying, and also the to have her in the Justice League is only for this book. It feels like every book is separated. Um,
Yeah, because I was like, did Mark Waid agree to this?
and also, if you look at the panel, it is besides Vixen and Batman. I think that's Batman. Yeah, they are the B list Justice Leaguers. They aren't the A-listers, and obviously, that is to show, Lois being powerful, just like they did with Superman when, Death of Superman, of having the C-listers. Um, and Diana is nowhere to be found. Every time the Justice League is brought up, Diana is not drawn, not
Oh,
mentioned.
remember, Brit, when they go Justice League heavies on standby, and it's like the Atom and stuff, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure Diana's pretty heavy duty.
Right, but again, this also speaks to the fact that with Lois having powers, obviously they do not want Diana in the way, because even with the powers, Diana will still overshadow Lois. And this goes back to why Batman and Superman should not be in a Wonder Woman book, because you don't give her that same respect in either of those books. If you are going to mention the Justice League, if you're going to mention Superman's best friends or who he cares about, Diana should be in that pool of people. And she is rarely brought up because of the marriage. Batman, they've never had the, that closeness or whatever in that genuine type way. So Batman, you can get away with that. But having him in her book is still that honestly should be a no from the start. But Superman, if you want to have Clark and Diana with this best friend type relationship, it should be equal.
Yeah, well, actually, Brit, you know what's kind of funny about that? And I had this conversation with Robert a little while back. The other weird thing is that they don't address is that the Justice League book doesn't even address her book, because how can she be on the Justice League when she's a fugitive?
Yeah, it's the same way as the Azarella run, where she was, dealing with the new gods and everything like that, and being in London. Um, yeah. Also with, I think, uh King's Batman run, no one addressed that either. So yeah, it's just, I think by default, King's, runs are Elseworlds to editors.
To DC, yeah. It's like they may take place in continuity, but no one references them for the most part. Same thing as like He Who Must Not Be Named. So in a way, I'm going to temporarily suspend the "why did you say that name" rule, so I can say this to King if he's somehow watching and made it this far and 3 hours in. You just got Bendist. I can't take great credit for that. That was Comic Pop that came up with that joke whenever he ignores continuity, because that's kind of what Tom King is. He's Wonder Woman's Brian Michael Bendis. Oh God, that's not good. But so all right, so we made it, and Jid, you made it 3 hours and 15 minutes. Wow. You got stamina, my friend.
Oh,
wow.
Thanks, you guys.
No problem. So I think that's a good place to leave it. So, Brit, do you have any stories that you want to tease us with before we wrap up?
Okay, so I finished chapter 1 of our Olympia story, and we have a title. Excuse me. It's called Odyssey of the Heart. And no, first of all, you were supposed to be editing, sir.
You just sent it to me
yesterday or the day before.
I was busy, lady.
Yeah. So okay, exactly. So I'm, I have my.
Don't use that excuse with me. The minute you upload more than once a year, then you can tell me that.
Oh, the shade. Oh my God. Like.
Oh my God.
Okay. So I do have that will be posted if you get done with the editing.
Oh my God,
that will be posted tomorrow or Monday. And I also have a one shot that goes under tonight, and another one. I think I have 3 tonight one shots actually that should be within the week, and then I would say trying to do multiple chapters is a lot of work, but I'm trying. Chapter 4 of Shelter, chapter 2 of Odyssey, and chapter 5 of the Athens story. Yeah, so a lot of work in progresses that are slowly progressing, but it is some that I will upload within the week.
Heck yeah, about time. So Jid, where can one find you, brother?
Okay, so I wanted just to take some time off just social media for a bit. I've got some personal things to work on, just as because I'm in school. If people don't know, so I'm gonna really the finals are coming up, so I really have to lock in.
I see.
Coming soon though, in a couple of weeks, I will definitely be back in full action during the spring. I'll be out. It's always gonna be what King of Wonder Woman, exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, keep having the hashtag because we keep the pressure off. It could be that King decides he doesn't want to write the book anymore. Anyway, see you guys later. Stay heroic. Remember, Lois Lane is Lois Lame, and Steve Trevor is Steve Never. She belongs with General Zod. He belongs 6 feet in the ground. Before I log off, I want to bring up this little motivational clip real quick.
We will become an army.
Stay heroic, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.